We are the Mystic Men, Kimo, Joe, and Daniel Lim. Five fans adore us like we do Luke Thomas and the Mystic Men. We are the Mystic Men, Kimo, Joe, and Daniel Lim. Fucking up the airways all the way to Norway on the Mystic Men. Sweet science, that was the model. But then we watched Lawler and McDonald. Life was pretty good, but we were missing something. Then along comes a kid from a place called Crumlin. Brimage, Seaver, Max, and Eddie, Jose, MSG, and Adali are the Mystic Men. Kimo, Joe, and Daniel Lim. Putting on Bar and Spiegel, that's fucking illegal, and a Mystic Man. We are the Mystic Men, Kimo, Joe, and Daniel Lim. Edmund self-improvement, more head movement, and a Mystic Man.
A very good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another version of the Mystic Men podcast. I'm your fucking host, Kimo. With me, I got Dangerous Daniel Lim and Joe Jitsu. How's it going, boys?
We are the Mystic Men.
What a voice. What a beautiful, fucking soothing voice.
What a song.
Nah. I saw, what that Pretender did for the Mayweather fight, and I thought, we can go one better.
To be honest, you've got a lot more talent than that fuckwit, but yeah, thank you, Joe Morgan, for that gorgeous intro, man. It's a beautiful strum you got going over there. Really nice.
I love the Kim Jong-un one too that you sent us while we were in Asia. That one was just as fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we should play that as an outro one day.
I'm so giddy right now. I'm sorry just for cutting over, but I can't believe it's fight week, guys. This is a fucking momentous occasion, yeah.
My heart's racing, my balls are itchy. It's been 2 fucking years, man, since the magic took place.
We should tone it down a bit because I did tell a couple of buddies from school about our podcast, and they're gonna listen retroactively. And I don't want to talk about balls and nutsack too much, so we'll save that for the post show, which is going to be exclusively on Twitter, of course. But just regarding
after the men
fight, I don't know. How do you guys want to start? Do you guys want to talk about the build up to the fight? Do you want to talk about the X's and O's, which we're so good at, obviously, because we're masters in every aspect of the game? Do we want to talk about Dylan Dennis and how he's a perfect replica of Khabib?
Replica.
No, he's just bigger and is more aggressive, I guess. And there's just so many different ways that we can just dissect this fight. I don't know where to begin.
Well, let's at least inform our fans that we're going to get to a Joe Jitsu segment later, right? Where we're going to analyze Dylan Dennis's ground game. Maybe we even discuss the Mundials or anything like that. Like, we're going to have our technical segment with Joe. Obviously, he's going to break shit down. But we can go two ways. We can either build up from the past a little bit, discuss some of the biggest fights that took place over the summer, and then we end up with basically the preview show for the massive fucking fight that's taking place. But I know you're so giddy, Lim. I don't even mind just diving into the shit straight away.
I don't either, man. I don't want to.
Tell me how you feel, bro. How does it feel that fucking McGregor is coming
I don't want
back
to
to the octagon?
You know what, guys? I don't want to bottle up this energy like a fine bottle of proper 12 whiskey. Yeah, so let's just get into it. On 3, scream, look the Jameson brothers. Look the Jameson brothers, yeah? By the way, have you guys gotten a bottle from Tesco?
I can't find it. It's not in the UK.
It's sold out instantly.
It's sold out, bro. They said in Ireland, a couple of people posted up pictures on IG saying that there was a 2 quantity limit. So that they're just flying off the fucking shelves, yeah. It's the purest form of whiskey. Trust me on that.
But it's actually quite cheap, apparently. Like it's like a JD Jameson type of whiskey, right?
It's an entry-level whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah, which is smart actually, because it makes people just fucking go to the stores easily and buy it. You know, it's a McGregor whiskey, man. But let's
motion, yeah. Proper 12 on the canvas. When Khabib goes down on the canvas, he's gonna be right over the fucking proper 12.
Less
match.
rest.
Yeah.
Mate, are you like on campus right now, like spewing this shit, or like where are you?
I actually reserved a room in the library in our loft. So I'm holding this poker right now. So people are probably just looking at me thinking like, who the fuck is this crazy ass fucking Asian guy screaming to the fucking walls, yeah? But I don't give a fuck because it's fight week, motherfucker. Oh God. Boys.
Yeah. How about we start at the fucking first presser, bro? Like, why don't you give the people your thoughts when you saw McGregor come out in that fucking suit of his? I don't know if that's pink or purple or a mix of it, but what did you think of the whole thing? Because it got pretty damn personal, man.
It did, mate, but it felt very sterile and unorganic because the crowd obviously wasn't there, but also just I thought Conor was a little bit ballistic. I don't know if he's probably not on the John Jones diet of cocaine and whiskey, but I do think he was a little bit inebriated probably. I really don't know. I personally don't like that version of Conor. I like Conor more so kind of in the Mac Life interview that he did a couple days ago. Just his kind of relentlessness and his passion for martial arts that was such a part of him. Because I think what I love so much about Conor going up, or when he was on his rise and leading up to 189 and 194 and 205, 202, 196, was even with his persona and that mantra of that bigger than life persona that he carried, it was always his passion and his love for martial arts that carried him. You understand what I'm saying? Like you could just feel that just burning desire just to practice martial arts every single day that made me fall in love with him. And I'm starting to see semblances of that again this week.
Yeah.
He just seems so passionate. I don't know if it's a cocaine. I don't really know what it is, but he seems passionate, which is great. And I mean, when he speaks, I believe every word that he's going to say. I mean, even when he said that he was going to knock out Mayweather in 4, I was like, I believe it. And even when he lost, I still believed it because I believe in everything that guy fucking says. So yesterday in the open workouts, when he told everyone that he's going to just charge straight at Khabib, which is a crazy game plan if he does decide to do that, I believe him. Unlike Darren Till, who talks a lot of big shit, I actually believe everything that Conor says. So I can't wait. I thought the presser was a letdown. I thought, some of the personal attacks that he made on the whole Dagestani Chechen relationships are just way out of any of our kind of, I think, pay grades in terms of really analyzing what the hell is going on and the geopolitical kind of sphere. If I want to borrow a word from Luke Thomas, I just don't think we're capable enough to really analyze that. So I don't really give a fuck about that. I hope the presser tomorrow is a little bit more, just based on the fight itself and just them going back and forth, which I think it will be because there's going to be a crowd there, obviously. But it's really interesting, man. Like another thing that I want to bring up a little bit later is just how you guys are perceiving the excitement for this fight. What kind of numbers do you think this fight is going to do? And how is it going to compare to previous Conor fights? But just regarding what has come up to this point so far, I think what has really, just titillated me has been the matchup itself. It's not the hoopla, it's not the promotional kind of backing that was such a huge part of Conor's rise, but it's just the fact that he's fighting his toughest opposition to date is what's really kind of getting me going.
Dude, you sound woke as fuck right now. I don't even know if you should go talk to your professor in a bit because you might slap a guillotine on him. You're fucking lit right now. I don't know.
Like, yeah. What do you think about, personal federal jurisdiction? I'm like, fuck you, motherfucker. Fuck. Get the fuck out of here. No, but I'm just excited, man. I'm just so goddamn excited. I've been targeting this one for a long, long time, and I think I'm going to the fight. I got a big paper due on Monday, but I pretty much finished that just so that I can go to the fight on Saturday. So I'm pretty fucking stoked, man.
Dude, that's fucking beastly if you do go. But, man, I do kind of agree with you. Like, Conor was a little bit too intense, I would say. But he did go fucking deep. I mean, you're talking about, like, geopolitical situations, all of that. But some of the stuff that he said, like, and I didn't even know it until like our boy Helwani pointed this out. Like the shit he was saying about his manager Abdulaziz, about his relationships with his kids and things like that. Like he did his research. Like he said things which are not immediately like out there in the public, but if you dig deep, you'll find shit like that, right? Like Conor is a very cerebral motherfucker. The way he like dissects information about people, you know, finds your weak spots and goes in about it. Even the whole meeting with Putin was like fucking hilarious. The fact that he just took a photo with Vladimir Putin. I mean, it's incredible. But yeah, I couldn't really tell much from the presser, man. Like I agree with you. Like Conor gets very electrifying when he starts talking fighting, you know, because he is able to break fights down really well technically, you know, like he has a real passion for the game. And when he talks, you know, everybody says, oh, the dude talks and talks and talks. But at the end of the day, a lot of times in the past, he has called his fights down to a fucking T, you know, like he has broken things down technically how he's going to do it. And sometimes it didn't work out that way, like with the Nate Diaz fight, but a lot of times it has. And that's, you know, what makes you believe the guy. It's not just all a bunch of bullshit. Like he has a lot of technical ability, and he's shown that a lot in the past. So I don't know, but we're gonna get deep into this fucking, you know, into the technicalities of this fight later, because I do think it's an uphill battle for him. But you gotta believe, man. What was your take, Joe?
Where's Noah?
No, exactly.
Where's Noah? Before Joe gets in, I do want to just touch on that Noah subject. I hate Ali Abdelaziz. I can't stand that motherfucker, man. Like he manages the best fighters, and this guy is just known to be a snitch. And I know those two things aren't really related, but it just kind of boggles my mind that this guy manages pretty much the best fighters in the game right now, and he got to be an American. I don't even know if he's a legal American citizen or not, but if you look at his past history and the shit that he's done, and just how much of a fucking blowhard this guy is in terms of just talking shit to other fighters when you're a manager, first and foremost, just really drives me crazy. And secondly, you know, he professes about, you know, his love for his fighters and like how he's like this devout Muslim and whatever. And from what it seems like, you know, he fucking left his son to snitch on whatever fucking operation that he was involved in so that he could stay his ass in the States. And I know those are all kind of like cursory points, but I really don't like it when managers talk shit to the fighters. And for him to, you know, tell Dana, like, why does he have his 2 belts or just getting into other fighters' business? It's like, dude, you're a fucking manager, man. Sit your fucking ass down.
Well, most MMA managers are a bunch of scumbags. I mean, look at John Jones's guy. But yeah, Joe, give us your thoughts, man.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can get that pump for Conor's pressers anymore, because obviously, like, he doesn't do anything different really to what he was doing back when he was ripping like Dos Anjos and Jeremy Stevens. But then it was a bit more sort of comical because we hadn't seen any of that before. But obviously, he's got to go like one above. He's got to go +1 every single time. And like the Mayweather, I thought the Mayweather conferences were pretty cringe, to be honest with you. I didn't think they were clever. They were just 2 people just swearing really loudly at each other. And like, there's a time and place for that, and it is funny. But I don't know. I just thought all he's trying to do is just get a reaction. And I respect the fact that he will do anything that he can. He doesn't care what he looks like. He will do anything that he can to try and get the advantage mentally. And you've seen it work out to a treat with like Aldo and Alvarez, where he's literally cooked them before they've even gone in the cage. But yeah, man. I mean, it's difficult as well because you've got someone who's Khabib. You're just going to sit there and just say nothing. And I don't know. It got a bit awkward, obviously, when he was like being offered the alcohol and he's like Islamic and stuff, and that was just like, I think he probably maybe regrets doing that a little bit. But at the end of the day, it's a fucking press conference. No one really cares. I find like the open workouts more interesting than the press conferences sometimes, because when you've got one guy who just doesn't want to engage, like Khabib, there's not a lot Conor can do to actually get any sort of rise out of him that he's going to tell him anything. I mean, you've got like all these YouTube videos about people saying like, oh, Khabib was leaning back and all that, but I don't know, man. It's nice to see him back in a UFC promotion. But I do miss that, and I've been enjoying the embeddeds way more than like the press conferences, because that actually gives you stuff that's relevant, and you can see their prep and how the weight cut is going. and where they're training, what they're doing, and their diet, whatever. That's way more interesting than you stick two guys in front of a mic. That's for the casuals. You know, the real stuff.
But Joe, just to intervene real quick, like, you know, Aldo was also very stoic, right? Like, he also never really reacted to it. A lot of people, I remember in that build-up too, were just like, "Oh, Aldo is a stone face. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah,
he's going to school McGregor." But inside, you don't know what's boiling up in a person.
No. Yeah, like, I'm not a consultant psychologist. I can't tell if inside Khabib's just fuming or he's just laughing his head off. Like, I think with Aldo, there was that point where he got his title nicked, and then he like reacted and tried to get his title back, and like you'd see on embeddeds, like he'd be saying, "Oh, I hate that guy. I don't want to. I don't." You know, when Conor was at the window of his room, just like laughing at him.
Exactly.
So
I was just going to bring up the same thing. You're right, Joe.
Alvarez, I think you can tell even just from looking at Alvarez that Conor was annoying him, and the fact that obviously they both had shared the same first language, that made it easier. But then I think that's why Conor does his background checks. I mean, he said stuff about Mayweather, about like Mayweather's ex-partners and stuff like that. That was really like niche. You wouldn't have got it if you just on the face of it.
Dude.
But
Conor wore a Golden State Warriors jersey of some dude that was fucking his side piece.
Yeah, it's just like
that's the level of research that Conor does, man.
He goes whatever lengths he can, and he's obviously got a lot of ground there in terms of like the Chechen and Dagestani political tensions, and like the thing about like trying to get him to say something about Putin, like that is just pretty savage, because obviously he knows that you can't say anything about Putin because he's a fucking nutter. But no, man, it was all right. It wasn't too bad. Like, it would have been better if you had fans there, because I like it when fans ask questions. Like, that's always better than like you get the journos doing the interviews. And I prefer it as well when you've got like loads of fighters up on the panel, and they like start giving it to each other, and you get back and forth between other fighters on the card. Because it would have been really good if Tony Ferguson had been up there, because he's obviously got a lot to say as well, and he's pretty good on the mic.
He's a crazy person.
I don't know about good, but he is something on the mic.
He is entertaining. He does, spew out words. I mean, they're not very comprehensible most of the time, but he is entertaining, I guess.
But I guess on the actual fight itself, man, it's like this is the first. I've been pumped for some interim UFC fights in terms of like since we last saw Conor in the octagon. But like this is. You take a minute just to think about actually what's on the line for these two fighters, and this is the fight that both of them will be remembered for. Doesn't matter what they do in their career after. Maybe if Conor wins and he fights, Woodley or whatever, but this is like...
There's so much at stake.
This is the defining fight. I know he's slept Aldo. He'll always have that. But this is the real, this is what both of those guys will be remembered for, and they won't be able to overcome the loss unless they fight each other again. But, if they move on their different career roads, this is the defining moment that will tell you exactly how good or how bad each of them were.
Well, I agree with you, but I think that applies more to Khabib, because I do think Conor still has, like you mentioned, Joe, the Aldo fight and even the Eddie fight, just the manner in which he beat him on that stage, and also considering the fact that he took a 2-year hiatus. I think Conor, even if he gets ragdolled in this fight, we can still say that he was a great fighter, but probably less so with Khabib, just because his opposition has been less of the caliber than Conor's. He's still, even if he gets slept, he's still a great fighter regardless. But I just think his opposition has been so kind of, sporadic and not of the caliber, like I mentioned, to Conor. But it's more of the manner in which he beat every single one of his opponents that is more impressive to me. And, just regarding the actual matchup in and of itself, it is such a legacy-defining fight for both fighters, because we kind of knew from the get-go when Conor was going to potentially move up to 155 a couple of years ago that he would eventually have to fight Khabib, and he would not be the real king at 155 unless he beats Khabib. And people want to talk shit about Khabib's style, him getting lit up in certain sequences of fights against Michael Johnson or Edson Barboza, but the fact of the matter is that none of those guys can really take his pressure, and it's so overbearing. his top game is so just overwhelming that I really do think that if he manages to get Conor down early, Conor's going to be so fucking exhausted and so gassed that he's just going to get mauled for 5 rounds, which is going to be so much worse than getting choked out like he did against Nate in the first fight. So the consequences are extremely drastic for both fighters, and this is why this is such an important fight.
I do agree with you, Lim, that I think Conor's legacy is already set. Like it can get much greater, obviously, but holding the 2 belts simultaneously, at least for a little bit, his accomplishments are incredible, right? So even if he loses in a violent fashion, people will talk a bunch of shit, but he will still have achieved something that no other fighter to be honest, really did in the UFC. And not only that, in terms of his victories, but just his overall impact on the sport, it's just so big. Like, I don't think a Khabib loss will take much away from that. One thing I do want to add is, for as much as he's hated, how is this fucking dude, after a 2-year hiatus, taking this fight? I mean, who has bigger balls than fucking Conor in the UFC? I know it sounds sometimes like, we love his balls a little bit too much, literally speaking. But, I mean, it's incredible that he's fighting one of the most dominant forces, after coming back from a 2-year hiatus. It's incredible, man. This guy will literally not back down from any challenge. I know I sound like Dana White now, but this is the fucking truth. This is the fucking truth. Like, look who he's facing. That's fucking illegal. That's fucking illegal. But, I mean, look at what he's doing. He's taking on fucking Nurmagomedov, man. It's insane. Yeah, it's hard to pronounce. I'm struggling a bit with it, but I'll just say Khabib, like Ariel would say.
Mark Goddard was never my friend.
I mean, I just got to give the guy props, man. I'm really nervous.
He goes like all in, doesn't he? Every fight, he's all in.
He is all in. I think it's man. Where did I hear that today? Yeah.
There's no. I think Dana said about it, but it's true. There's no sort of, it's a tactical fight. He's taking this because it's literally I don't think I can say this about any other fighter in combat sports. Every time either someone's pulled out or he's making his way through the ranks, he's just like, whoever you want me to fight, I'll fight.
Mate, he went to boxing as well and fought one of the best pound for pound fighters, right? Like, he fears no fucking man. He doesn't back down from any challenge. And despite his wealth, and the amount of money that he's made, he's a fucking fighter, and he loves combat. He fucking loves combat.
I mean, how easy would it have been to, I don't know what he's making for this fight, and he's going to make a shit ton, but he would still make a shit ton if he came back and fought like
Poirier.
Poirier
every match,
just like a top 10 ranked guy, pretty decent, like Barbosa, someone like that, just to be like, look at, it's like Tyson Fury coming back now in boxing and just being like, yeah, I'll have the AJ fight now, thanks. No. Everyone takes step up fights to get you back in. It's only the true greats, Sugar Ray Leonard coming back and just fighting Marvin Hagler. There's a special sort of mentality that is to be, I will go into the deep end straight away.
But I think it's something, Joe, that gets overlooked because a lot of people get caught up in the hype and the talk and the controversy and the fucking bus incident and all of that. But not many people are actually talking about the fact, that he's actually taking this fucking fight. Like it's sort of, we talk about risk for him, man, like physically, and also for his career. This is a huge fucking risk.
People need to remember, he'd get more money to fight Diaz. I'm sorry, but he would get more money for the trilogy fight with Diaz than he would for the Khabib fight. Because Khabib, as much as people want to say he's a beast,
I don't know that either, but it would be close.
He's not a big star. He isn't.
But I guess you're right in the sense, if you're gonna use the balancing test of a risk utility factor, then Diaz would be more beneficial because even if you might get a little bit less money. I'm not going to agree with you on that point, but I will agree with you on this point in that he might make less money, but the risk is just not as high as it is against Khabib.
Well, yeah, exactly. But so you think, like,
Yeah.
why is he fighting
I
Khabib?
agree.
He's got as
He
much, or if not more, of a pace
Sure.
against Diaz. Because he is, as much as he wants, much as he loves money, he does love the challenge of putting,
And-
and he loves to prove people wrong. That's his main motivation when he gets up in the morning to train. It's not because I want to earn X amount of money. It's because he wants to prove to people that he is the pound for pound best fighter on the planet. So how do you do that? Well, you beat the best pound for pound fighter on the planet.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you there. And let me tell you, mate, that McGregor fast diet and the supplementation is fucking on point. Yeah, I did that shit
good,
for
man.
3
He looks
weeks.
like
He looks amazing.
I didn't. To be fair though, the one thing I took from the press conference was how much bigger Khabib was in frame. I did not know. I did not appreciate that actually.
He's huge.
You did not appreciate it. I just like how
actually a smaller guy.
No, he is. Khabib's taller too.
Yeah, I know. It's mad that because on the embedded he looks real lanky. Conor, he looks like rangy, but then you just think Khabib is actually a bit of a beast. Really, he's fairly tall and is just really like thick and well set.
Yeah, I just think it's Conor's arms that are going to be the huge difference in this fight, and just how long his reach is. I mean, the guy has really, really long arms. So, I mean, he has to, and that's why the fight can be simplified in the sense that this is going to go either one of two ways for both fighters. If Conor can't clip him early in each round, then he's fucked.
No. Yeah, he doesn't have much room to win the fight. Like, he can maybe do what he did to Mendes and like get up after, a little ground exchange, like after maybe the first round or the second round, but anything that goes beyond that, like, Khabib will not get tired. Like, I don't give a shit what anybody says. Like, Schaub was trying to fucking convince people that the event would get to him and his heart rate would go up and he might gas out too. Like, I honestly don't see that happen because Khabib doesn't really force anything on the ground, even though it looks extremely powerful. Like, it's not forced, and he can keep doing this shit all fucking night. Like, he talks to everybody while he's doing it. He talks to Dana, he talks to the fucking ref, like, he talks to everybody while he's smashing people's faces in. So, man, he's got a small window to put him away. And if he doesn't, I don't know, man. I foresee trouble, to be honest. And if we're going to get into the technicalities of the fight, I struggle. Like, if I would have to put money on this, I think that Conor is rightfully so the underdog in this fight. I don't know by how much it is at the moment, but if you look at the layoff, if you look at the stylistic matchup, right, the everlasting cliche of styles make fights, this is his kryptonite, right? And Khabib is not without fault, obviously. Like, he does get a bit reckless in the stand-up. He has been rocked a few times. But overall, he is extremely good, like, positioning himself on the ground. And feel free to jump in with technicalities, Joe Morgan. But, like, he is extremely good at maintaining position, right? He doesn't die for submissions. He will just fucking dominate somebody and hold them in the same spot. And because he's also so physically strong, it's just hard to get out. Like, have we seen anybody that's been able to really get up a lot, push to the back of the cage, get up and jump back up? No, we haven't really seen that from a lot of people. So I think we underestimate Conor's ground game a little bit, but we're talking about an elite fucking grappler. Maybe the best one in the UFC, arguably, right?
Yeah, but do we really underestimate Conor's ground game? Because Schaub was trying to say that the discrepancy between, and I can't believe we're referencing Schaub here as if we're giving him some level of deference. Like, come on, man, this guy is a fucking cuck. But anyways, regarding the discrepancy between Conor's ground game and Khabib's ground game and their striking, relatively speaking, I do think they're as drastic as one another because we've never seen Conor provide really good stand-up defense against a guy who was in Khabib's like level or shape. I mean, people reference the Eddie Alvarez fight a lot, but Eddie was fucking concussed when he was trying to go for takedowns against Conor. So don't try to give me that he did could stand up or take down defense against Eddie.
He
when
didn't
Eddie
commit to the takedown.
Well, even then, that's my point though. Like outside of that fight, then which body of work can we honestly reference to in showcasing Conor's ground game?
Well, one of them is Chad, and Chad had a lot of success. Chad was able to drop in short elbows. He had relative ease on like getting him down. So
this was like 1 week camp Mendes, wasn't it, as well?
I mean, there's other variables to that. Chad is very small as well, right? And he has got a different takedown style. He's got more of an explosive double leg, right? Whereas Khabib is a little bit more slow and kind of pushes people up against the cage and then, will go for a single or something like that. So it gives Conor maybe a little bit more room to fire off a counter punch or a knee or something like that, or a short elbow. And I would say Chad is a lot faster when he shoots, right? So maybe it's a little bit more hard to like stop in terms of takedown defense. But again, he only started like properly defending those takedowns when Chad tired out. And again, I think Khabib has got a fucking game plan that is set in stone. He is not going to pull that shit that he did with Ally Quinta, right? He is going to shoot, and if it fails, he's going to shoot again, and it's going to just keep on repeating unless he gets knocked the fuck out. But he is going to die for the takedown continuously. And this is going to be the real test, like you said, for Conor's, takedown defense and overall ground game. Like, is he going to defend the takedown? And if not, can he get back up? That is the main question of this fight. And maybe Khabib gets a bit reckless. Maybe he gets fucking slept when he goes for a sloppy takedown, or he stands a little bit with Conor. I do see the potential of, because of Conor's footwork, where he just does that little step back and cracks him on the fucking chin, right? If Khabib will like maybe fake a takedown or try to go for a punch or anything like that happens, I can see openings for Conor. But the window of opportunity is so small. It's a hard ask for me, man. It really is. Who would you guys honestly like pick right now? If you run to your head, like who would you pick? And don't pick with your feelings, because Lim, I know you want the king to fucking win, but so do I. But would you honestly pick him right now?
What makes you think that I would want Conor to win?
Because you love him. You literally love. You probably are in love with him, actually.
I'm sorry, I was being a little flippant there, but I do think Conor is going to win. Something in my my core tells me that he's going to win. Just in my loins, so to speak. You know what, man? I would pick Khabib to win. I would. I just think Khabib is a beast, man. And I was watching his Barboza fight the other day, and dude, that guy took some fucking shots from Edson, and he didn't flinch. And I know the Michael Johnson fight, he got clipped, and I think he is going to get clipped in this fight, But I just think Khabib's going to be able to weather the pressure, man. So it's just all dependent on how hard does Conor crack, and if he catches him in the right angle, with a shot that Khabib doesn't really see, I could definitely see a kind of a rendition of the Aldo fight, maybe not in 13 seconds. Or something like that, perhaps. However, unfortunately, Conor's looking so loose in there. Unfortunately, our boy Goldie isn't going to be there anymore, but I don't see Khabib getting slept. I think the only way that Conor can really get rid of him is if he manages to catch him with like Eddie shots.
But do you see Khabib shooting for the takedown and risk getting knocked out?
No, I don't think. I think Khabib's game plan is going to be to kind of weather the storm, take a couple of shots in the process, and try to get him kind of in that clinching range, so that he doesn't have to take Conor's shots at range and then take him down from there. I think that's his best game plan, and I think he'll be successful at that. I think the huge factor in this fight is, when does Khabib take Conor down?
Yeah.
And if that happens in the 3rd or 4th minute, obviously that's going to be fantastic for Conor. But if it takes place in the first 30 seconds of a round, he is fucked because he's going to gas. And Khabib's style is so overbearing.
For me, I think Conor's chances comes down to, he's an amazing striker, and Khabib will have not fought anyone with as much power in his hands as Conor. But I think so much depends on Khabib's chin. I really do. Maybe two things: Khabib's chin and Khabib's ego, because he knows that fans will want to see him trade with Conor, and maybe deep down he probably knows that people want him to see him trade.
I don't think so, mate. I don't think even his fans.
But it's like a macho thing. It's a macho thing where he knows that he's better on the ground than Conor. He knows that, but you don't know what goes on with these people's heads. Sometimes fighters want to prove, like the John Jones Cormier fight. He wanted to prove that he was a better wrestler, and if Khabib stays on his feet longer than necessary, I think he will get knocked out. I really do. I think people haven't made enough of the fact that, he did a boxing fight, but he will have literally just worked on his striking for 12 months. So his striking is as good as it's ever been and will be better than it was against Alvarez. And if Khabib is stupid enough to think, I'm going to try and hang with Conor on the feet for a little while, and then he'll go into his takedown, because that's what he did against Michael Johnson, then Conor's got every chance, man. But if Khabib comes out there and is just like, takedown, that's all I'm looking for, is just to set up a takedown and work from top, then I don't even think Conor's never knocked anyone out with the lower half of his body. He isn't a knees kick specialist. He uses them well to set up his hands. Doesn't use them to, he's not going to like Yoel Romero Khabib when Khabib shoots in for a takedown. Just don't see that happening.
Oh my god, that would be incredible.
But I just don't see it happening because it's just not a natural thing for Conor. Connor's natural reaction is to sprawl and to regain distance, to let his hands go. He's never looked at the takedown as an attempt to start going for his knees and for his kicks. And that's a huge factor in this fight because, like you said, he is built for Conor in a way because he knows that when he shoots, all he's got to be worried about is that the shoot doesn't work, not that he's getting knocked out. That's the way I think about it.
That's a good point. Yeah, because they're going to count on him having a very one-sided game plan, right?
Yeah, I mean...
there is no risk of him faking a takedown and then throwing a huge overhand right?
No, I don't even think there's any... I imagine Conor would have done very minimal sparring because he knows, just like Khabib knows, he's much better than Khabib on the feet. And all he's going to do is step back and crack him with the left. If Khabib wants to stay on his feet, he will get lit up. So all you've got to be doing if you're Conor is working on the shoots and the takedowns and the sprawls, and even worst case scenario, if you are on the ground, how can you get up? Because the one thing that Khabib doesn't have is just that concussive one-punch knockout power from the ground. He'll wear you down. So even if you have to take a couple shots getting back up, you just have to try and get back to your feet and get your distance back. That's the main thing for Conor, is even if he gets taken down, fine, take damage, but just regain distance. I don't know, what do you think?
Skip.
Here's the thing, right? Like one thing about that Conor does really well is the sense of distance, right? Like Dan Hardy broke this down beautifully when he did his little what's that show called?
Dan Hardy, man, best analyst in the game.
Yeah, he's fucking amazing, man. The guy should be, honestly, he deserves more than just.
He should be in the booth instead of fucking Cormier. I'm sorry, but I don't want Cormier screaming "Thug Rose" a million times.
I have a soft spot for Cormier, but like.
Oh no, I love him, but he's just not a good commentator.
Hardy's the type of guy that if I have somebody who I think is kind of an intelligent person, but they have a dumb view on MMA, so to speak, right? And they're just like, oh, these dudes are just fucking savages, beating the hell out of each other. I would show like a fucking Dan Hardy video of him breaking shit down because he every time I watch that video, you know, that little show he does with what's his name, Dan Gooden.
John Gooden.
John Gooden, sorry.
Legend.
He just comes up with these new like little intricacies that I'm like, oh fuck, I never thought of that. And that's really what's interesting about MMA, right? Because there's so many elements to this, and you'll be like, holy shit, I never thought of that. Like the way takedowns are defended, or the way a clinch battle happens, and how that, you know, flows into a punch, for example. Like the way he explained Cormier's dirty boxing is fucking incredible. Like, I never even thought of that about that. Right?
The only other guy that's on his level is Dominic Cruz.
And Robin Black.
But he's not as likable. That's the problem. Like, Dominic Cruz is not a likable guy. I don't like him. Like, he's a fucking arrogant prick. And he's not open to discussion either, which I don't like. Like, Dan Hardy, when him and Gooden, like, do the show, like, they bounce ideas off of each other. It's a really, really nice, like, dynamic that they have together. And that dude deserves his own fucking TV show. Because, honestly, I think that could do a lot of good things for MMA. Not just a YouTube fucking... 30-minute clip. But anyway, what were we talking about? We were talking about sense of distance. Yeah. Sorry.
For me, that guy's Robin Black. The way that he just breaks down shit is just absolutely impeccable. But I do agree with your assessment on Dominic Cruz, man. He's just such a arrogant cunt that you can just tell on his face that whenever somebody's bringing up a counterpoint, he's not paying attention to anything that they're saying. Yeah. Like his face is like, I don't care what you have to say. I'm going to disregard it entirely and just have to say what I want to say. Yeah. But I think he's actually commenting on 229, I think, with Rogan. So we'll be blessed with his presence. But just regarding the range, I don't think this fight is all that hard to kind of break down stylistically. It's just they're just very, very, very good at what they do well, and they're not so good at what they don't do well. So I don't know. It's a lot to digest, but I don't know. We have 2 more days, right? So I think one thing that we can kind of consider, I don't know if this is a really strong point, but how Khabib looks at weigh-ins. I mean,
that's a big factor, man.
Pretty well. I mean, he cut down to 154.5 against Ali Quinto, despite all the drama of that week. So I do think his regimen has improved, but at the same time, who knows, man? I mean, he fucking had to go to the ER the day before or the day of weigh-ins in his fight against Khabib or against Tony, the third time around. So who knows?
Man, I feel like, and it's an interesting topic, I feel like cutting weight sometimes is a bit of a rolling of the dice, if you will, right? Like, a lot of guys will say, like, oh, I didn't do this right. I've got a nutritionist now and this and that. And obviously that plays a part. I'm never going to deny that, right? Like the way you cut weight, and a lot of guys do it in different ways, right? Some guys focus on the sauna, others are much more about the nutrition. Like there's a lot of different ways that people do it. But I feel like all these extreme weight cuts are just rolling the dice with your body, right? Like the shit that Darren Till and Khabib do, and you can see by the size of them, because I think they're quite similar in the way that they're absolutely massive for the weight. Maybe Darren Till is a little bit more extreme, but I think they're quite similar. And your body, sometimes your body might cope with it, and sometimes it might not cope with it. Like even though he made weight last time or against Ayakinta, like doesn't mean that he didn't struggle bad. We don't know what goes on in the background, man. Somebody who's that size, who depletes himself to that level, it can't always be good. And for example, with Darren Till against Woodley, yeah, okay, he made the weight and he looked kind of okay, all things considered, at the weigh-in. But we don't know what kind of part that played. Look what happened to him, man. He couldn't really pull the trigger and he got knocked the fuck out and then strangled, right? So weight could play a big role in this. It's something that might not be at the forefront if there's no drama, but Conor makes this weight very comfortably, and he's at the right size for this weight. He looked absolutely massive versus Alvarez. And then when he stands next to Khabib looks fucking massive. So you could only imagine like the amount of shit that Khabib has to go through in order to make this weight. It's definitely a factor, and fingers crossed, I hope there's no drama around this, that all of a sudden, his fucking kidneys shut down and he has to go to the hospital and the fight's off, because that would be a complete and utter disaster. I really hope we don't get anything
You'd get
like
Ferguson, Conor, wouldn't you?
that. Well, yeah, that's true. Actually, I actually talked about this today with a colleague who I found out is also a UFC fan. Like, they're doing a good job these days at stacking the cards with like these, the main event is like a championship fight, and then the undercard fight is basically, the number 4 or 5 or the number, 3 and 4. Like they'll have like a number 1 contender basically in there on the card just to make sure that they can, throw those in the mix if something goes down.
Sometimes with these fights, you can't always guarantee that if someone drops out, the guy in the main event's like, yeah, sure, I'll take, the replacement, even though I haven't trained for him, and the replacement may have been thinking all the while that he could, he's been training for me. But with Conor, Dana goes from Khabib dropped out, we want Tony to fill in. He's going to be like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. No, he would jump. He would jump.
If you guys, no, he wouldn't, because if you guys did your proper research, you guys would have watched the MacLife interview where he actually touched into that subject matter. He said he is all in into this fight, and it would be very, very difficult for him to have to pursue either of those 2 options. He called them absolute fucking bums. So I don't think he would actually take that fight.
He would, but then he gets an out as well, because if he loses, he can always just say...
Yeah, but also at the same time, beating Tony off of MCL or whatever knee surgery he has, nobody's going to give him fucking credit for that, except us.
Yeah, I know. But it's not, you'd get more shit if he didn't fight.
No, I totally get it, but I just think it's a different scenario when you have 11 days or 2 weeks out to fight Mendez and Diaz, whereas you have 24 hours or 48 hours to fight Tony Ferguson. You know what I mean? I just think they're different scenarios.
Mate, like, you're saying no credit for Tony. Tony is changing the game, bro. Like, people recover in 6 months. He does it in 4, bro. Like, that's just how he rolls. He's a revolutionary in recovery. That's what he does. So I wouldn't
dealing with.
What do you say?
That's the sort of monster you're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, I like Tony, man, but I do. I mean, just to touch on him real quick, he has been fucking shafted in all of this shit, man.
Oh, of course.
Like how quickly they stripped him off his belt, and just left him to rot, basically. It's quite harsh, to be honest. And he's a good dude, man. He's always been active. Yeah, okay, he kind of fucked up when he had that thing at the TV set where he fucked up his knee or whatever. But come on, man. Like, he's been a good company guy, I think. And to treat him like that is just very harsh. And you have other dudes that have held belts for like a fucking year and a half. You know what I mean? And then get stripped later on. It's yeah, there's a bit of preferential treatment going on in the UFC, but we all know this, right? This is very much existent, especially in these days, in this new era of the UFC, where I don't know, there doesn't seem to be, an architecture around the way we treat belts, right? It's very strange. Anyway, is there anything else you guys want to touch on about this fight, or any other aspects that you guys want to discuss?
I just want to touch on Khabib's ground game for a second. Looking at it, I mean, he's almost done what Conor's done to striking, where he's torn up rule books and just thought what's effective for me, I'll just do that really, really well. And he obviously has a lot of respect for jiu-jitsu, but he's repped Samba as the thing that's taught him everything he knows. And to be fair to him, I mean...
Or Sambo.
Sambo, sorry.
Imagine him dancing Samba. That would be awesome.
But, he just does uncharacteristic things. Like, he lets guys have underhooks. He can happily sit in half guard or mount, or not, or close guard and still do so much damage. Because I think he, better than anyone, utilizes the cage as... his weapon, that he positions his body in such a way that the only options are to go against the cage or to go against Khabib. There's no other ways of getting out of that situation, because I can't even remember a fight where
Yeah, people have stuffed some takedown attempts because, if you go for a single leg and your foot's sweaty, you can just wrench it out. And there's not a lot that people can do about that sometimes. But when he's closed that distance and you're in his half guard or he's in closed guard and you're up against the cage, I can't remember a time where somebody actually postures, gets the hands out in front of them and is able to sort of get away along the fence line and circle away. I can't even remember that happening. I mean, that has to be like a stat for like escapes from bottom. And I'd love to know what the figure was for Khabib, because it's just relenting pressure. And unless you've ever like rolled or grappled, it's the constant pressure of somebody on top of you and taking your weight. And I don't even know what it feels like to have that, plus somebody raining strikes down on you.
Yeah.
And it just must be like the anxiety of where the next punch is coming from. And if you slip that leg out, it means he's going to get mount, so I can't do that. But he's got a free hand. I've just got to try and grab his hand, but he's constantly hitting me in the head. This isn't good. It must just be terrifying being on the bottom, knowing that you've got another 4 minutes left in the round and there's no way of getting out of there.
But he doesn't usually go beyond like half guard, right? Like
no, he knows. I'll tell you why. It's because if you go into like, especially side control and sometimes mount, they're almost in a way more dangerous positions from top, because the reason why I think Khabib he only goes for submissions if they are really obvious, and he's not working to set up a sub. He's working to set up the most dominant and controlled position, because he knows that if he stuffs the sub attempt, especially like an armbar, you've given up all your dominance, you've given up all that position you've worked for, and the guy is going to be on top of you. And especially if you're in mount and he bucks out a mount, and especially in mount as well, it's hard to use a fence line as a help in mount, because ultimately you're the center of gravity on top of them. You're not actually pushing them against the fence like you are in half guard or closed guard. So I think he knows that if he progresses onto mount or takes the back, because I don't think he doesn't, he's very rarely does he take the back. He's quite happy just to sit in half guard, use his hips, use his body weight to control their hips, and just wail away on punches. It's something that he's so used to doing on a bag for 5 rounds in the gym that he thinks, what's the point of going to the back or trying to get an arm bar or a head arm or a triangle or whatever. He's just thinking, I know what I'm good at. It's low risk, high reward. Just keep doing that. There's no reason to go for the sub.
It's a different kind of top game, right? Because he's also very patient. Like, he doesn't do the BJ Penn where BJ always had a very dominant top game, and once he starts raining down a few punches, you'll see guys often, they'll start with a cover up, but obviously it's so hard when you have a guy throwing bombs at you to really defend properly. So a lot of times it's the natural reaction for them to start turning, right? And they'll turn a little bit sideways. Yeah. And when you've got BJ on the mount, like you're fucked. Like, he's gonna snatch in that fucking rear naked, and you're gone. But Khabib doesn't even like, it's like you say, he doesn't even really consider that. I know. He's happy just to stay there and use that physical size of him as well, and just put pressure on you and just hold you down, right?
And it's not taking away from the fact that he has to be at such a high level. If you go up to someone in the street and you try and hold them on the ground and they're trying to get away, it's, even for people who have done jiu-jitsu, it's still really, really difficult. If someone just wants to get away from you, it's really tough. So you have to have years and years and years of knowing where to put pressure, when to take your knees off the mat, where to put your hands, on the hip, thumb in, thumb out. There's a huge amount of detail that goes into actually being able to control a prime athlete and keep them in one position and still be able to inflict punishment on them. There's a huge amount of work that goes into that. But I think what is stopping people from potentially being able to get out is that they've got the rules of jiu-jitsu in their head, which is, if I'm in guard, try and recover guard, recover half guard. He welcomes that. He doesn't care. if you want to get full guard, if you want to get half guard, if you want to get deep half guard, it doesn't matter to him because he can work from all those positions. You're almost better off giving him a mount or an armbar or a sub attempt where he isn't as confident at, and at least put questions in his mind thinking, well, I'm being given the arm here. Do I go for the armbar? Do I go for a Kimura? Do I go for an Americana? Or do I keep inflicting punishment? That's what's so special. I mean, I can't really comment too much on like the wrestling side of it because I've never done wrestling. I don't really know too much about it. But that, I imagine, is very similar, where he knows what he's good at. He's got an arsenal of techniques which he's built up from years and years of wrestling with top-level elite Russian amateurs and fighters out there, that I've always seen as well that he tries to roll as much as he can with people who are far bigger than him. Like, he trains a lot with Rockhold, and I think Cormier say that he's obviously rolled with Khabib a number of times. And I know there's obviously benefits to rolling with people smaller than you and of a lesser stature and skill level because you can try new things out. But you can't substitute what it's like putting yourself in a stressful situation in training so that when you actually go to the fight, it's just that age-old adage that you train harder so the fight becomes easy. Yeah. So when he's fighting guys his own way, even I felt that sometimes. Like, you roll 4 rounds with guys who are 100 kilos and then you roll with a guy who's 80 kilos and it's just so much easier and you feel like you have so much more control and you can get away with things and you can get your game going so much better against someone your own weight if you've been rolling for 4 rounds before with some guys who's 20 kilos heavier. So when, if he's able to control guys like Rockhold, Kane, Cormier to some extent, you put him in against a guy who's his own weight, it's very, very easy for him to control them. So, yeah. Oh, Kimo?
Yeah, I'm back, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Sorry, man. I don't know what the fuck happened. I just dropped off for a second. Yeah, continue, man, because you were in the flow right now.
Yeah, I think I finished when you dropped off.
Oh, okay. I
finished on a triumphant note, and I was like, okay.
No epic reaction. Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry, Joe. I just got back. Can you explain that again?
Yo, mate, did you go? Are you done, or are you still need to go out for a little bit? You
No, man. I'm just gonna teleconference my professor some writing questions that I had, so I'm good, boys. No, okay. I was listening to that entire thing.
I had a question for Joe, actually.
Go for it.
Yeah. So again, that was fucking fascinating, man, and I'm actually curious because ground and pound to me is so interesting, right? Because you have certain guys that can just sit in full guard and wreak fucking havoc, right? Like John Jones, to me, is a very recent example of somebody who was able to do that. And yeah. I've always wondered, like, why is that really the case? Because with Jones, I think it's a lot of physical gifts. Like, he's got these crazy long arms, and for some reason, like, he can just posture up and rain down these crazy elbows. And back in the day, you had guys like Ortiz who were doing this, but it was new and people didn't know how to defend it. But nowadays, there's not a lot of people. You could probably count them on one hand that can actually do, fight finishing damage from full guard.
I think it's because
I
think that's a good point. Because, you think of Jones and his reach and his just athleticism where he can like stack you, stack the guy on bottom so that the distance is really short.
Yeah.
And Khabib does the same thing because he does, he wings in these big overhands when he's got the guy stacked. But even, he still does a lot of damage from when the guy's got decent distance and he's got his back on the floor and his hips are down. I think the reason is because the trouble is with full guard is that it will never get away from the fact that even if you've got someone in your guard, his hands can often reach your head, even if you're in full guard. So you're in range of doing damage to you. And I think full guard is really, in MMA especially, needs to be a transition position. So it needs to be, you have to work out. You can go move to an omoplata, triangle, whatever. But it can't be, okay, I've got him in guard now, I'm safe. It has to be a way of setting up other attacks. So if, it's good that you've got him in guard, I'd say that's almost like a neutral position, maybe slightly less, because you can do some damage from guard with your elbows, but at the same time, he can stack you and he can reach his head with his hands. So it's not like you're winning if you've got him in full guard. It's a good neutral position from bottom, because bottom most of the time is going to be the less dominant position. Obviously, you've got guys like Tony Ferguson who often prefer working from bottom, and that's why the Khabib Ferguson fight would have been fascinating, because both of those guys would have accepted the positions of top and bottom, and it would have been just interesting to see how they would have worked from it. But if you look at Ferguson, especially, he never accepts the position he's in at bottom. He's always looking to either move on or to wait for someone to make a mistake so he can capitalize on it. He's never keeps staying in one position in like full guard and thinking, I can finish a fight from damage from bottom, because there's hardly any chokes, gi or no gi, that you can do when you're in the guard, especially. But from the bottom, you need to at least, unless you're going to go for like a collar choke or a really an Ezekiel choke, but it's hard on your wrist to like get the angle when they're in your guard. You can always, but you're always going to move on from guard to a sub. If you sit for a guillotine, you'd have to really get on top of them to get your arm underneath, and then you'd sit back for the guillotine. But especially in MMA, it has to be a position where you transition and you look at isolating an arm or
Khabib does that as well, very well, by the way.
Yeah, I know. So it's really, but this is why MMA is so interesting, because it forces people and martial arts to evolve to be effective. And I know Hickson Gracie talks a lot about jiu-jitsu trying to get back its roots of being an effective martial art, which I think is great for the MMA side. Obviously, for the sport jiu-jitsu side, it's all about working within the confines of the sport, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's effective. But for MMA, jiu-jitsu has to be effective to be a relevant part of someone's arsenal. And at the moment, I think Sambo and grappling and wrestling is really quite dominant in that regard, and jiu-jitsu probably needs to focus more on how it can be more effective when someone like Khabib is in your guard and you're still having damage done to you, because slapping on a rubber guard against Khabib is really, really unlikely, because it does take a lot to set up, and you need the guy to be quite passive and on the bottom, on top. So I'd like to see more guys finish guys from the bottom, because it is really interesting to think that somebody who's on the bottom can actually be that dangerous. But I just don't see, especially, if you think about the Khabib Conor fight, I just don't see how Conor is going to finish him. I know he's a brown belt, which is way above my pay grade, and he would finish me in 30 seconds, but I'm just not sure how Conor is going to finish Khabib from bottom if they're in close quarters like that.
Well, you have guys, again, it's a rarity, right? Somebody like Brian Ortega is such a dangerous fucking guard that it presents a whole different angle to it, right? But I want to touch on one thing that you said, and that's like the fundamental difference, I think, between pure jiu-jitsu, gi or no gi, but between jiu-jitsu and MMA. Because you said like the pulling guard is a neutral position. But the problem with MMA is it doesn't view that as a neutral position, right?
No, I know. It's almost like it's positive for the guy on top. It's not massive,
exactly.
Because you are dangerous, because all it takes is one punch to go wide, and then the guy can slip his leg up and you're in a triangle. But it's sort of plus 5%, 10%, the guy on top.
But it's like in jiu-jitsu, like, it's not viewed as a negative thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Pulling guard is not a negative thing. You don't score.
No, it's almost like the guy on bottom is winning.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's almost the opposite of it, right? But even in a fight, and that was kind of the wrestling era, I call it, of UFC, where all these collegiate Division I wrestlers were coming up and joining the ranks in MMA, holding guys down and inflicting no damage. Like that was the problem where somebody's just pulls guard and you sit on top of him. You don't really do any fucking damage. But then the fight gets scored for the dude on top, merely on the visual aspect of the dude being on top and scoring a takedown, right? Like, I've always found that a little bit strange, and I've had plenty of fights. You know, one that I think of right now immediately is when Demetrius Johnson fought Torres, right? The WC guy back in the day that was really, really good. DJ in those days was not a very like active fighter in terms of ground and pound or in terms of stand up. Like, he was a pure fucking hold people down kind of wrestler, right? He wasn't doing anything spectacular. And basically what he did was shoot for some explosive takedowns because he's a good athlete, and then he would hold Torres down, and that's it. That's all that would happen. And Torres was so active from the bottom. He was always shooting for submissions. He would even throw a couple of elbows, from the bottom. And the fight got scored in DJ's favor. But if you take away the fact that one guy's on top and one guy's on the bottom, it was a very even fight. But you could argue that Torres was actually, pressing the action a lot more and arguably even scoring more damage than DJ. But simply by the fact of positioning, DJ won that fight. And I remember at the time, a lot of people were outraged about it because they're like, what the fuck, man? How can you win a fight just by holding a dude down? Like, that's not how you score damage or score a victory in a fight. But, yeah, it's a whole different discussion, man. I think it's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, I love it. The thing I like most is just seeing a guy with with dangerous guards from bottom and his threatening submissions. And, even if you don't get the sub, the fact you've attempted it should score you big points, and at least you've got the guy thinking on top that he's dangerous from the bottom. Because the worst MMA fights are always two guys where there's no danger and it's just a slog, like it's just a sweaty hug of two people on the ground. So you've always got to, I really like watching guys. I love it when fights go to the ground when you've got two guys that are actually threatening each other with fight-ending submissions.
Absolutely, and it's some of the most exciting stuff that you can see, right? Obviously, a knockout is visually very pleasing, but I've mentioned this so many fucking times on this show, as if we've done hundreds of shows. But the Frank Mir submission, and I wouldn't even call it a submission. I would call it a fucking wrecking of Nogueira. Is still one of the most incredible things that I've ever seen in all my years of watching MMA. And that was basically a dude, being more technical than a fucking, very famous black belt, but at the same time overpowering him and just taking one of his limbs and ripping it from his fucking torso. Like, oh God, it is amazing to see.
So that's the only, that is the only highlight I look away from every time I watch it, or every time it's popped up, because it's just so disgusting.
Yeah.
Our elbow just breaks.
It's one of those things that's really gross, but because it's so intense, like I cannot look away. And then as soon as it happens, even to this day, I'm like, ow, like it's just to see that pop of the fucking shoulder.
This is the last thing, because obviously we're not here to talk about jiu-jitsu, but one thing I'd love to see now is that obviously you've got like the Danaher Death Squad.
Yes.
Fucking,
I was waiting for it.
And then, the leg lock system, you go Gordon Ryan, Cummins, Nicky Ryan. These guys.
Can you talk like him, Joe?
What, Danaher?
Yeah, do his voice.
No, he's got such a weird fucking accent. I can't even do it. He's like Kiwi and American.
Yeah.
Anyway, those guys have not revolutionized, but they've really changed the focus of submission grappling into like the lower half of the body being just as accessible as the top half. And I think the next step in MMA jiu-jitsu is you saw Dylan Dennis in his debut.
Yeah.
Footlock, his guy, and that was really, really good, nice to see, because I'd like to see a lot more guys threatening heel hooks, because really like a heel hook is, if you think like the Nogueira submission is brutal, watching a heel hook pop out someone's knee is 100 times worse and 100 times more painful. And that is really where I think MMA Jiu-Jitsu needs to go. And I know it's hard because guys are sweating and it's very difficult to set up the Ishigaramis and whatever to get to the position of a leg lock. But that's what I'd like to see more guys look at threatening, pulling like single leg X guard or Dalla Riva or whatever to use that to set up a leg lock attack. But yeah,
Man,
that's my 2 cents on it.
Apart from being like a fucking weirdo, like Paul Harris, in his prime was fucking dangerous diving for legs always, man. And there weren't a lot of people that could stop it, honestly. Like he had a lot of success with that shit.
Yeah, and I think people don't do it because they look at like, what's going to get me paid, what's going to get me the big fights, big knockouts. No one wants to see a guy tap to a footlock and then everyone walk around the cage after high-fiving each other and, whatever, because you haven't actually beaten the guy. You've made him tap, but, he's fine.
Mm.
So I get that side of it, but, that's, if jiu-jitsu's going to start to get on top again, you've got to look at how you can use leg locks to at least stop people from being so happy with having their, happy with being on top, because especially leg locks from bottom, there's so many interesting and diverse ways and sweeps and entries into the leg lock system from bottom that you just don't see in MMA for whatever reason.
I must say though, I think that era of being on top and getting decisions like that is kind of over. We don't really see it that much anymore. And a lot of guys have evolved as well and gotten a lot more weapons. Like we're talking about an era where, these wrestlers would come into MMA with like zero to like almost nothing in terms of striking ability and ground and pound and things like that. Like, and they would be, they would fight with a lot of anxiety as well in the cage. They just would not be seasoned and experienced, right? Like now you've really seen guys come up that have trained all aspects of the sport, and it's a totally different fucking game. Like you don't have these one-sided dudes anymore. The era where you had somebody like John Fitch holding you down for 3 rounds. When do we still see that? Like that rarely happens. Like, and John Fitch wasn't even a good wrestler, but he was good enough to take people down and just hold them there. But you rarely see that anymore. And guys like Jones and Khabib, they've evolved. Man, even Edgar against the Mexican kid, man. What's his name again?
Oh, Diaye.
Yeah, against Roy. I mean, when Edgar used to be a bit of a wrestle fucker as well, right? But look at what he did to fucking Yair Rodriguez, man. Like he was sitting in his guard and just smashing him with fucking elbows.
And that's why I loved the Woodley win over Till, even though I was, I liked Till and I liked, he was a bit of a superstar on the rise, but watching Woodley actually realise the Wizard's there, the Darce is there. He might have even been setting up all along once he knew that, he's not going to get Till out with strikes. He might have thought, actually, how can I, or the opportunity present itself, and he's just clicked in and thought, this is where you end the fight. And, watching that Darce get slapped on, it was really, really nice to see that guys. That's why Woodley is a top fighter. Whatever people think about him, he's boring, whatever. He is. Top fighters are able to adapt and take opportunities when they're given to them, because loads of other guys would have just wailed away on punches and punches and punches and looked for the stoppage. Woodley saw he could shoot the Wizard in, lock in the Darce, and man, like people gave shit. They gave Till some shit for tapping for that, but it's like, unless you've ever been in one of them, you don't know like the pressure that causes on your neck, and it's not like a windpipe choke or a rear naked where you can let, you'll go to sleep and the ref will stop it. It's like your neck will break, or there you will cause serious damage to your spine if you let someone crank your neck. And I've got absolutely no qualms with tapping quickly to like Darce chokes and neck cranks, stuff like that, because you don't have to be a hero to go to sleep every time you have a choke. Like, but yeah, that's what I like seeing, is that guys are able to use techniques as they present themselves during the fight, and they're not just one-dimensional. But yeah, I don't know how we've even got onto this shit.
It started with the tennis, I think.
I've been Googling where I can buy a proper 12 within my zip code for the past 20 minutes. So
now that was
do you want to talk about the card?
That was a wonderful chat, man. It was a wonderful chat.
come on, bro. I thought Kimo, you should have done a better job, man. Obviously, we need Jiu-Jitsu's expert opinion, but we also have
You
to
went
be
straight down a jiu-jitsu black hole there.
No. I mean,
No,
this is unlike other black holes in the coalition because this one is actually kind of enjoyable and it's actually informational. However, we got to move on to the card, man. We haven't done a show in like 8 months. So
I know. Let's do it. But I gotta mention one thing real quick, Lim.
Oh
Like
my God!
a lot of our fans. No, a lot of our fans, the many fans that we have, they always love the Mystic Men for the actual technicalities of MMA because a lot of them are boxing fans, right? Like shout out to Ski Mask Joe, but he was like, "Oh man, you guys are like explaining intricacies of the game that I've never even thought of before." So. They're gonna love that fucking jiu-jitsu segment right there.
Let me say this though. I think the ground game and I was calling it jiu-jitsu, but yeah, I'm gonna call it jiu-jitsu from now on. Like jiu-jitsu is so technical, and so much of it is predicated on how you can visualize certain moves and certain positions that it's hard to follow, man. Like I know it's necessary, obviously, to get a better understanding of how MMA works, but it is so visually intensive that it's very difficult for somebody who's a novice like myself to actually kind of keep up with what you guys are saying. But I will definitely try to get like a handbook someday and try to see all the different positions so that I might be able to provide some kind of input. But that was excellent, Joe. I'm like no bullshit at all. Like you've broken down that shit beautifully. You've created 2 fantastic Mystic Men songs, so you've been definitely pulling your weight these past couple of months, my friend. Yeah, but yeah.
Do the card. I've got to go away for 5-10 minutes. You guys run through the card.
You go have a wank, mate. You go have a fucking wank.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm serious. I'm gonna get a couple of bottles of that proper whiskey right now. I need to get myself one just in support of what Conor's doing. But co-main event. Shit, I don't even know what the co-main event. It's Tony versus Pettis, right?
Correct, sir. You are correct. I know who you're gonna pick because you fucking hate Pettis and you're a hater.
No, I don't hate Pettis.
Nah, but you're a bit of a hater around him. But who you got? Who you got, bro? Who you got?
I think Pettis is mentally weak, and I don't think his fight against Chiesa doesn't prove much. So I'm picking Tony. But again, there's obviously that huge asterisk of is 4 months too early for Tony to come back. I'm not quite sure. He seems like a pretty like a freak athlete, and he seems to train every single hour of the fucking day that he's up. So I'm gonna pick Tony. I think Tony's just better than Pettis, obviously everywhere except the stand-up game. But Tony has such a good chin, and he's so relentless, and his conditioning is so great that I don't think Pettis is going to be able to take that pressure.
Yeah, I agree. But it is insane though how he came back, so quickly from an injury. I mean, he's doing fucking breakdancing during the open workouts and all of that. It's kind of crazy. But if he is like physically 100%. I could see a very dominant performance, man. Like he's got a chip on his shoulder right now, and in all this hype that's going on, like we kind of forget how good Ferg is, man. Like I remember when we were texting each other during the RDA Ferg fight, and we were like, "Fucking hell, man!" Like this, we were expecting this to be a lot closer, and Ferguson somehow makes his crazy style work. You would think like that one day it's gonna backfire, like it almost did against a groovy Venata, but he's a tough motherfucker, man, and he gets real creative both on the ground and on the feet. But especially in terms of striking, it still worries me because I can still see, somebody with some good fundamentals. And Pettis, at the end of the day, he can throw some good fucking kicks, for example, right? Like I can see him like one of those fucking high kicks that did the iced Cerrone with, for example, back in the day. Like I could see that happen with Ferg doing some crazy shit and having his hands low because his hands are always low, and Ferg does come forward. So I don't know. It's not necessarily a guaranteed win for me, but yeah, Pettis is just not the same fighter anymore. #USADA, but it's yeah, I would say like unanimous decision for Ferg, man, for sure. Are there any other fights on that card that you're really looking forward to? Because I'm looking at it right now, and we got Karate Hottie against Felice.
Felice Waterson. I'm proper pumped for that.
Are you seriously?
Mate, I love Michelle.
No, I love her too, but I'm not really that much interested anymore in watching her fight, man. I don't want to see her get hurt. Yeah. She's too nice.
Felice is
so lovely.
It's
Police
a weak
fucking
ass card though.
Police
No, I
fucking
mean-
suck.
I don't know
Yeah.
why OSB is third on that card. That is fucking bollocks.
Just because he's a big guy and it's probably going to end up in a knockout,
Yeah, but
right?
I think the Lewis Volkov is pretty decent.
Actually, yeah, Volkov is kind of exciting, right? Like that's
Like,
going
that's
to be
a
a
good-
shootout.
Yeah, I like that because like Lewis always comes to fight. I mean, that should really be the third fight behind Ferg and Pettis. I mean, I can't really get up for the Ferg Pettis fight because I just know Pettis is pretty sharp. Like it's harsh to say, but he is. He's never going to be as good as he once was, and Ferguson is in his absolute prime. I'd have preferred like I don't know. Like, I'd have even preferred like Barbosa or something like that. I mean, Pettis has always been down a division, and you know, when was the last time he fought at lightweight as well? A year and a half ago.
Could be a while actually, but man, Ferg already fought Barboza, right? Like he choked him the fuck out
Yeah, sure.
with a beautiful toss choke, mate. So
Yeah, I mean, who else is in that? Who else is lightweight top 5? Yeah, I mean, what about Poirier? I'd much preferred Ferguson Poirier.
Poirier had the Diaz fight lined up, but there's some weird shit going on with that fight. I don't know what the deal is because Diaz has been tweeting a bunch of things about him not fighting or something like that. I don't know what the latest is, but yeah, I love that fight to begin with, but I think it's a little bit in jeopardy. I'm not sure, or Diaz is just bluffing because everything's kind
Nate
of.
Diaz, man.
I wouldn't say fuck Nate Diaz, but he is a little bit overestimating
How
his
can you
own work.
say a little bit? Are you fucking serious, man? He's been acting like a fucking bitch for the past 2 years, dude.
Well, he just
I
wants
don't
to
know
get
about
paid.
that.
He just wants to get paid, man. He graduated jiu-jitsu.
Bro, are you kidding me? If you're gonna present your worth based on his 2 fights against Conor, and he's going on about it as if that's completely representative of who he was his entire career, man, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, that's the most unrealistic, like, presentation of evidence ever.
Yeah, I mean, what Diaz is doing is
Are
he
you
knows
serious?
that-
He was
Diaz-
making 20 before Conor, man.
Yeah, I know,
He's
but
not
like,
that big of a son.
yeah, but like, what is the point if you're Diaz taking a fight because you know that Conor's going to give you that third fight when he wants? Well, pretty much after this fight, if he wins, it'll be Diaz 3 or Woodley. So why would you put that in jeopardy fighting someone? Just stick on the sidelines, man. I don't understand why you fight someone.
Let's not forget, Diaz is not like he's kind of smart in his own way, but he's also a bit delusional about his own worth, right? Like Diaz, like exactly like you said, Lim, he was in the right place at the right time, and he said the right things to get the Conor fight, right? And the fans have always had a soft spot for him, so it just kind of magically worked out for him, and then he ended up cashing in big. And now he's also come to the point where he's kind of on the downside of his career, and he just doesn't want to go like backwards from what he achieved, right? Like he thinks now like, oh, I made that kind of money for the Conor fights, I'm not going to do anything else unless I get that kind of a paycheck. Well, it doesn't really work like that, especially if you're not McGregor, because McGregor doesn't need a dance partner to cash in a shitload of money. You do. So yeah, I don't know. I do agree with you. He is quite delusional about his own worth. But that aside, guys, I'm not really
Yeah, I don't mind if you want to
fencing
wrap
much anything else of the card. So if you guys want to add anything else, I suggest we run down a few of the fights that have happened over the summer because there's a lot of interesting things to talk about.
Well, are there no other good fights on 231 or 232? Or are we just going to do that afterwards?
We can do that afterwards. Why not?
No, but I'm just a little bit confused as to why we brought up the Diaz fight. Because it's not taking place this Saturday, obviously.
Yeah, it started off with the fur conversation. We're going a bit left and right all the time
Gotcha.
on this fucking show, man. It's just all this excitement in the air. When is the presser starting, by the way? Are we going live for that post-show?
Bro, I got to go to class, unfortunately. It's going to be in an hour and a half.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
Man,
right
you
when
better
I start.
stream that shit from the fucking lecture hall.
Yeah, fucking right, bro.
You'll be like, ah,
That's
during the
fucking
fucking...
insane, bro. They'll kick me out for sure. Yeah.
I can see you like shadow boxing in your spandex, like.
Why do you always visualize me with spandex on, dude? I'm not wearing spandex. I'm wearing tights, but they're not spandex.
Bro, let me tell you something real quick. There was this chick.
Tell me something.
There was this. Let me tell you something, man. There was this
Yeah,
chick
break
on
it down
Twitter.
for me. Yeah, I saw
Yo,
the fight too.
Yeah, let me tell you something, man. There was this chick on fucking Twitter, right, that said like, "Yo, grown men should never work out in spandex. It just ain't right." And then Abe came up with some creepy ass fucking comment about her working out in spandex. But then I responded like, "Girl," or no, I said, "Abe, you've never. She's obviously never seen a boy limb work out in fucking spandex, bro."
Mhm.
And I know, but anyway.
No, I mean, to touch on that even more, I mean, pretty much anybody who trains jiu-jitsu or in an MMA gym always wears spandex. I mean, I don't know what the fuck she's talking about, but was she like one of those fitness type of girls, or was she just some fat fuck complaining about some other?
She was like a wretched hoe, bro. She was a wretched fucking hoe.
Yeah.
And she's
bullshit,
never seen like a beautiful Venom like fucking rash
I
guard.
was just gonna say after TJ's fight with Cody, I bought a bunch of virus gear. I don't know if you're familiar. I swear to God, they make fucking amazing like joggers and fucking spandex compression tights. So shout out to Virus. But no, dude, I honestly think if we could just quickly summarize the past 6 to 7 months, that would be fine because like you mentioned, man, I'm just so fucking hyped for this fight on Saturday that it's just taking precedent over everything that happened in the past 6 to 7 months. We can talk about some news, obviously, with USADA violations and whatnot, but if you want to go straight into just the big fights, the fights that actually matter, please feel free.
Boy Sugar, man. Anyway, since we touched on it real quick, let's go back in time a little bit. Let's go to July 7th, where Miocic Cormier took place, which was a bit of a super fight. Daniel, give us your thoughts on that fight, yeah?
Let me go for it because I think I've been painted or subject to this little corner of, being a Cormier hater. And I think a lot of that is granted because I always defended Jones so much. And I think I'm starting to realize that I've been doing that to a fault. Not necessarily because of him getting caught with steroids, but just how fucking hypocritical he is and everything that he says and how delusional he is. I mean, if you want to talk about Nate Diaz being delusional, like the shit that John's been saying lately has just been fucking insane. But you just got to give DC his full props. I know we had quite a bit of an argument just in terms of what DC's talent level is, but I'll stick with it. I don't think DC is necessarily the most talented person in the world as a fighter, but his relentlessness and his ring IQ specifically to get Cormier in that kind of that clinch position, and his ability just to kind of like you mentioned with Dan Hardy mentioning, I saw that same video too. The dirty
I saw the fight too.
But yeah, I saw the fight too. The shit that he does is just so kind of like it's so taken for granted because people look at his size, they look at his shape, they don't think much of his abilities in the ring, but just his overall kind of like his dominance of a heavyweight, of Stipe's size and of Stipe's skills, to get him out of there in a way that Stipe's never been kind of like knocked out before. I don't think Stipe has even been he's been dropped obviously by Alistair, but even against Ngannou, he didn't get dropped and fucking DC knocked his ass out.
Stipe got knocked out by Struve, huh?
Oh, he did, right? Was that with a kick or was it a punch?
Fuck, I don't remember actually. Let me check.
I think it was a punch.
But I guess the general point that I'm trying to make is that Stipe has improved drastically since the Struve fight, which we all obviously agree on.
Punches, by the way.
Well, I stand corrected, but I still don't think it diminishes what Cormier did by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, if you want to talk about like being a double champ after what Conor did, I think going from 205 to heavyweight is a more impressive accomplishment, especially against what people were calling the best heavyweight at that time. Because of Stipe's obviously defenses and what he was able to do against just really high level heavyweights. I mean, you just got to give DC his full props, and pretty much what he does from here on out, it doesn't matter. I think DC is such a competitor that he is going to face John Jones with no issues whatsoever. But I think DC's legacy is just fully set. He doesn't need to do anything else with his career. He could just retire right now, and he'll be, probably top 2, top 3 UFC fighters of all time.
I fucking agree with you. I think DC is really, incredible. And I've said it for a long time. He is one of the greatest fighters of all time. And anybody that disagrees with that just doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. The fact that he, as a small, pudgy dude, has a legacy at heavyweight even is just incredible, man. And heavyweight's a different animal, man. Like, the size of the fucking dudes that he fought, even in the ring when he fought Stipe, like he looked so small and pudgy, but it reminded me of the first time that I saw him fight. That was during the Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix when he fought Bigfoot. I had no idea who this guy was. He came in as a replacement, and DC, man, like I don't know, at heavyweight, he's got the touch of death in his fucking hands. Because it looks really weird. You see this guy with a big belly, and relatively speaking, he's got kind of small hands as well when you put him in the ring next to these giants, right? And it was the same thing that he did to Bigfoot, kind of similar like with Miocic. Like he just hits a guy with one punch, and all of a sudden you see the fucking energy it's just gone all of a sudden from that other fighter, the opponent, and they just collapse. Like it's incredible, man. Like he's got for MMA purposes, he's got really effective boxing. His wrestling is fucking insane. Like the way he's ragdolled guys like twice his size is just ridiculous. He's an Olympian, obviously. I mean, what he's done is nothing short of incredible. I love fucking DC, and I'm so happy for him as well after all the shit that took place with Jones, that he went up to heavyweight and he did what Jones should have fucking done. And I know it still probably bothers him because they have such a personal vendetta, but it's got to feel good. It's got to feel good that he left such a fantastic legacy for himself. And now he's going to basically celebrate that with a massive circus fight against Brock Lesnar. And he's going to make a nice fat paycheck and ride off into the sunset. And I'm really happy for him. What did you think, Joe?
He will definitely... No, I'm very much the same. Like, Cormier, I always like guys that have had serious amounts of adversity, because lots of guys go through their careers and they don't have anything to like fight against. But like, if you think about when he lost to Jones the second time, like you didn't see if there was any way back from that. You were like, well, this is what he will be remembered for. And then to go and beat the most dominant heavyweight ever in the history of the UFC in the way he did, he didn't nick it on a split decision. Like, he went out and steamrolled him. That is something that he will always have, that will counterbalance the losses to Jones. Like, I'm always a big believer in like the drug tests as well. Like, I know that everyone's probably juicing, but even if the fact that Jones has done it so many times, and I look at it as that, you might have lost to him at least once, and the second time, drugs have such a huge effect on everything in MMA. You look at someone like Vitor Belfort, never the same fighter. So, I mean, he'll beat Brock Lesnar, and I do hope that he doesn't sustain too much damage in that fight, because I still think he's got a lot to give. You've got the third or second Jones fight, and I think that's got to happen. It definitely will happen before they both finish. And even if Cormier gets the win in that one, they'll probably do the rubber match. So I think he's still got a lot to give, and his career could get even better. But I think as a person, he just seems like a really nice guy. Obviously cares a lot about the game and he's passionate for wrestling. And I'm just really glad he's done really well out of the sport, because he's one of the genuine good guys.
Absolutely, man. He's a fantastic dude. And I know you said before that you don't really like his commentary that much. I kind of dig it. It adds a little bit of flavor to when him and Joe Rogan go back and forth. Yeah, I think he sometimes gets a little bit too much on the mic, but I think he's so multi-talented, man. Like, he can do a lot of different things, and he's got a great career outside. I'll tell you what, actually, I don't want to see a fight with Jones. I honestly don't. Like, I looked up at... Because DC's getting really old, man. I don't want to see it. And Jones, to me, Jones is fucking dead to me as a fucking competitor. Like, I don't even care if I ever see Jones again. And if you look at DC's record fucking now, it's one loss, by the way, because the other one is turned into a no contest. He's got one loss, a decision to John Jones. The rest of it is fucking gold, man. Like, what a resume, man. Incredible. Shall we move on to another fight? Unless you guys have anything else?
No.
All right. We had also on July 28th, we had Alvarez versus Poirier, the rematch. I think we can touch on this real quick. Another fantastic fight, just like the first one, which ended in controversy. But I think the key story here is like Poirier, who most of us thought was kind of on, in a bit of a slump in his career, getting rocked quite a few times in his fights, all of a sudden had this resurgence and became a really, really competent striker and just overall mixed martial artist, man. And he did incredibly well in this fight. What did you think, Lim?
Yeah, I saw the fight too.
Yeah, I saw the fight.
Yeah, you know what, I'm happy for Dustin, but I always thought Dustin wasn't that good of a 145er, and I think now he's a good 155er, but he'll never be an elite 155er. I think Eddie's. I want Eddie to retire because he's just too tough for his own damn good, and you could just see his skills they're not there. They're not there like they were against RDA in that fight. He doesn't have the same explosiveness, and I don't think his reflexes are there. I think Eddie in his prime should beat Dustin pretty handedly, but I mean you can't obviously take that away from Dustin. I mean he's only fighting the people in there, but this is just kind of like touching on the what do you call it, the fight against that crazy fucking psychopath that he fought afterwards. Fucking who did he fight for his last fight? Gaethje. I think Dustin's always going to do well against those very kind of cumbersome, less than high level strikers, because that's where Dustin specializes in. But if Dustin fights, Conor, for example, again, he's going to get iced in the same fashion. So, I'm obviously being way too harsh. My barometer is way too high, but I think just the fact that Conor's fighting this Saturday, it's like everything is in relation to the king. You know what I'm saying? So.
It does boost up his resume, doesn't it? Seeing guys like Poirier, have so much success, and Holloway.
The Holloway one to me boosts up, but to me Poirier doesn't really do much, man. Honestly,
you don't really.
No, I don't put much consideration into it. What about you, Joe? Okay, he's not first.
I think he went
sorry.
What about you? No, go for it, man.
What's the question about Poirier?
Yeah, you can just skip over this if you want to. Little pea-head Poirier.
No, man, it's like,
fucking hillbilly, eh?
no, I rate him, man. He's probably, I think he's better than Alvarez. And, whether he was better than Alvarez in his prime, that's another story. But if you think of, like, the big three being Ferg, Khabib, McGregor, man, he's definitely, like, the best of the rest. And you never know how good these guys can get sometimes. So I'd like to see him in a big fight again. And again, you've got to give him props for actually coming back from the Conor fight, because that could have defined him and that could have been like who he was. But he's obviously taken that loss on the chin, a bit like Holloway, and just can't come back a much better fighter.
Mate, what is your take on Poirier's thug jitsu movement?
Yeah, man, I haven't watched enough of his fights to comment really. Like, I don't think it's
actual technique or anything. I think it's just a cool name, but yeah.
Yeah, well, T-City, innit?
T-City, baby, T-City. All right, let's move on to the heartbreak fight, because this fucking killed me.
Okay.
August 4th, sorry. Dillashaw against Garbrandt, the rematch, man. Fucking hell.
Yeah,
what a
fucking shout out to Team Virus, bro.
Oh, man. It was... I expected so much more, and the build-up was so intense. I was so hyped for this shit. And the fight didn't really go the way I expected it. I thought, looking at the first fight, I thought there were a lot of things that Garbrandt was doing in that fight that he could have repeated. The speed, the explosiveness, the counter punching, the reflexes. I just thought I rated Garbrandt a lot higher than his performance in the rematch. But maybe that's because I was underestimating Dillashaw. I always thought that Dillashaw was a little bit relying too much on his athleticism, where he could create like awkward movements and do some funky type of punches and things like that. But he's fucking good, man. Dillashaw is really, really good. He's an elite fighter. And in MMA terms, I would call him an elite striker nowadays as well. Because the way he just fucking dismantled Garbrandt, like, he almost made it look like Garbrandt didn't stand a fucking chance. Like, I was shocked. Well, what about you, Liam?
For some reason, I wasn't that invested in this fight. I
was. But
kind
you
of
know I'm
just
team
knew.
no love, right? I'm a
No, I
Cherokee.
love No Love too, bro. Like, I fucking love No Love. I love No Love. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's got fucking grenades in those hands, bro.
I know what you were
But
saying.
I know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just knew that once he married that Thai girl, that his career was gonna take a turn for the worse. You know, you just gotta be really careful, man. Like with the Sawadee cops, like they can ruin your fucking
Married a
career.
Thai girl?
Yeah, his wife is Thai, bro.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
I thought he was
yeah.
always married to a white girl.
Nah, bro.
But
She was
he trained in, where did he train? In Tiger or something? Or Phuket Top Team? Where did he train?
Tiger.
Yeah, man, that's dangerous, man. You go to fucking Phuket, you get
No.
surrounded by all them hoes. And
No. She's American, bro. So, but she was like one of those fucking like pool girls. No, she was a pool girl over at MGM. So that's
Are you
probably.
serious? Oh, he's
I
such
swear
a
to
douche.
God, dude. Yeah. So, yeah, just regarding Cody, man, he's just all talent and no brains. I mean, his IQ in the ring is fucking horrendous, and you can tell that when he gets hurt or when he lets the emotions get to him, man, he doesn't remember how to fight. Technically, that's pretty much it. That's what it boils down to. I think he's got a lot of work to do, man, because the UFC was hyping him really, really, really hard. And you kind of notice with these guys that have been really pushed by the UFC, their careers often don't get to where they would have been had it not been for the hype. Not because they're not good, but it's just when the expectations are that high, like it's so hard to counter to work against that uphill climb.
It's that hot wook, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad, man.
Which makes Conor's rise so incredible.
Well, we should finish the show with Conor again because I feel like you just want to talk more about him. But yeah, it is sad, man, and especially in that fight, like it was so evident how the UFC was pushing for him. Like they were really brushing Dillashaw aside, and all the promotion was around No Love and his resurgence and all of that. And it's like you say, man, like he's got a lot of talent, but he fights with emotion. He fights with pure emotion, and that creates sometimes very violent, aggressive knockouts. But a lot of times when you fight somebody elite, it creates also, a moment where it just backfires completely. I do think also though it's his resilience as well, man. Like he just doesn't really have a good chin. I don't think it's a bad chin, but he will get touched up, and then once he's a little bit wobbly, exactly like you say, he doesn't know how to respond. He's the type of guy that once he gets cracked on the chin, he will fucking start swinging, And I think in both fights, he did the same fucking thing. And then it becomes a matter of he's not coherent, and Dillashaw will just exchange with him. And obviously because his head is clear and he knows exactly what to do, and Dillashaw is a terrific finisher as well, he'll always catch him in an exchange and finish the job because he's already on wobbly legs. And it happens twice now, and it's just, he needs to work on that, man. But that's hard to train, right? Like, because you got to put yourself then in those kind of hostile situations in the gym. And I think that's hard. Like, you cannot really recreate those moments that easily, especially, with no headgear, 4-ounce gloves, and all that emotion at stake. Like it's really difficult. So I don't think he's done. I think he'll come back, but as long as Dillashaw is king of that division, he's it's been 2 fights now. It's going to be really hard to get a third one. Yeah. What was your thoughts, Joe? Because I think your team No Love as well, right? I think you're on mute again, motherfucker. All right, we'll move on if he maybe jumps back in.
Boys, I'm gonna have to shoot off for 10:15. All right.
All right. Shoot off, mate.
No worries,
Right, if you're still on,
All right,
I'll jump
bro.
back on. If not,
For sure.
Shooting the shit.
No, we'll still be on, man.
We got a lot more Conor to jerk off on, but
Yeah. Oh,
bye.
Conor.
Conor, fucking Conor. Conor. Did you have anything else to add about No Love, bro? Did you read his book, by the way?
Of course I didn't.
Fuck, man, I gotta read that shit.
I only like going through Cody's Instagram page, man. I swear. There's a lot of good content in there, bro. A lot of good inspirational. And I guess he's really good friends with the Charlo brothers. So
Is
whenever
he?
Charlo, yeah, Cody always posts like, good work, champ. Keep grinding.
Keep grinding, champ.
Keep grinding, champ.
Dude, he's got almost like 2 million followers, man.
They like, I mean, Cody's you know what though, man? That's like, I know this is completely a separate argument, but that's why Instagram followers don't mean shit. Like this fight didn't do good pay-per-view numbers, man. Like there's one thing, have a lot of followers, their social media presence is good and whatnot, but man, you really have to make those numbers count. You know, like can you convert those fans into people who buy pay-per-views? That's the big question.
Yeah, I feel you. But they were never really big draws anyway, right? Like Cody had that potential, but he just doesn't have that charisma, right?
Bro, TJ's not a fucking draw. He's not even a fucking dude. Nobody knows TJ outside of the MMA community.
TJ is one of those typical hardcore favorites, you know, but outside of that, like nobody gives a fuck about him. That little snake in the grass. But I respect him, man. I respect TJ a lot. I love watching him fight, and but I'm glad that whole DJ shit has moved on though, because I hated the idea of him going down away. That was fucking stupid.
Yeah, but that hasn't gone away though.
It did though, right?
It didn't. That he's actively targeting Cejudo at 125.
No, but didn't Cejudo want to move up? Cejudo wants to move up.
No, it's on TJ's terms though, man. TJ wants 2 titles. It's on his terms. Cejudo, you're a newly crowned champ, dude. You're not gonna negotiate shit, son. Fuck out of here.
Well, now that you mention it, do you want to quickly touch on DJ losing his fucking prestigious record? Like that was
good
unexpected.
Fight,
it was a good fight, actually.
Very good fight.
Too. It was.
Yeah, just 2 very, very high level athletes going at it, man. Like Cejudo's stand up has improved so drastically. It's pretty fucking insane, actually. Like he doesn't do much out of that stance because he's not really that explosive on his feet, and like he's obviously explosive, you know, wrestling, but in terms of a stand up, he's not explosive, but he's very technical, and it's kind of crazy. Like he's probably or DJ is probably the only guy that Cejudo is bigger than, so you could kind of like use his size against him. So in terms of height, I'm talking about. So in the stand up, you know, he was kind of holding his own, and I mean, this was a super close fight. I mean, I think the media scored it majority of DJ, I think, but I'm okay with either way. I thought Cejudo did. I mean, you got to say he won the fight because of his top position, no, on the ground. Those few takedowns in each round is really what sealed it for him. If you did score it for him.
Well, it's like
you fucking hate DJ, so I mean, you made Joe go on. You made Joe go on a 20-minute diatribe about the ground game just to shit on DJ. So that's a fucking guy you are, mate.
Well, hold on. That was the DJ in the past, right? And I was a big fan of Taurus as well. That's why I brought up that fight. Yeah, but make no mistake about it. I have major issues with DJ as a personality. Like I really, really do not like him, and I don't like the fact that he always bitched and moaned about more money when he does absolutely fucking zero to increase that for himself, right? And again, we can talk about Conor all fucking day, but so many people are like, oh, Conor, you know, this and that, and jealousy, and he makes this X amount of money. Yeah, that's because he fucking created that for himself. That's because he's knocked motherfuckers violently out and then went on the mic and spit that hot fire, man. Like, he's created that for himself, and he's created a new fucking climate in the UFC even for people to make money. And for some fucking Xbox nerd to sit there and be like, I don't want to take this fight. What?
O'Malley's an Xbox nerd.
Yeah, but Sugar is fucking beast, bro.
Okay, all right, my bad.
He started the CBD movement, bro. Come on, you can't hate on that. It's all about that CBD.
Continue your DJ little rant there.
No, I mean, I've said this so many times. I just have issues with him on a personal level. But
you have a checklist for every show. Shit on DJ, shit on Jones, and talk about that Frank Mir submission. You checked all 3 times, so.
And throw in a little BJ Penn once in a while as well.
Yeah. I mean, do you think Cejudo is going to reign in that division for a long time?
Well, fucking hell. The problem is that division is so fucking thin. I know DJ's going for surgery, right? So that rematch will probably not take place anytime soon. But as soon as he's back, it's gonna happen, right? So I don't know. I think that's why Cejudo went for the TJ fight, because he realizes that division is a fucking wasteland. Like, who's he gonna fight? Joey B? Like, nobody, right? So he wants to make that money because he got the title.
Joey B and his blonde hair.
Oh my god,
dude! Joey B might be the luckiest human being on earth.
Yeah, he's getting that Olivia snatch, and I don't know why.
I don't think he's that hot, but I mean, just the fact that he got her is such a blessing, man. He must have done something. He must have like saved her dog from drowning or some shit to get her. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just happened to be like in the same neighborhood, and like her dog was drowning, and he just saved her miraculously. Because I don't see how he got her, man.
Well, he was part of the No Shirt Nation. Maybe she accidentally stumbled upon a gathering and just went for it, you know?
Sure.
Like them California boys, they got some appeal. But what the fuck were we talking about? Yeah, okay, so Cejudo, I think he was smart, I think, for calling out TJ. Like, he just wants a money fight, right? Even though it's not really a money fight. But for that division, it does make a little bit of cash.
Right. $500,000 versus $750,000. So, which is quite substantial. But yeah, what else?
What else you got, Ev?
What else you got, Ev? What you got, Chip?
Well, the fight itself wasn't that big, but I do like to talk about this guy because on August 25th we had also Gaethje versus Vic, and I thought, given Vic's size and stuff and all the damage that Gaethje has taken, I thought he was there for the taking, and it was the complete opposite. Like, he fucking smashed Vic. Like, what are your thoughts on, like, Gaethje at this point in his career? Like, what would you like to see him do? Because the dude even said himself, like, he doesn't have that many fights left.
Right.
I don't think he's going to change his mentality anytime soon, even though he is actually a good fighter in terms of technical ability.
Wrestler, man. He's a good wrestler. He never used it, which is why I'm not a fan of him. Like, I don't care about these macho guys who are just deliberately stupid about the way they fight. It is maddening to me. Like, his coach is a really good coach. Trevor Whitman is a fantastic striking coach. I mean, look at the progress that Rose made with her career. You know, Trevor's giving him good advice. He's just not following it. I've actually, when I was in Vegas like a while ago, Gaethje would always train over at the Roy Jones gym. And like, he has good technique, man, but he doesn't use it in the fight. Like, and to me, it's not even worth it because he's going on and on about like him creating these legacy fights that nobody's going to forget and that his legacy is going to be etched in stone. It's like, bro, what are you fucking talking about, man? You're fighting in Nebraska, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? You're fighting in fucking Lincoln, Nebraska, mate. Shit, I didn't even fucking remember the fight the day after. You know what I'm saying? Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. You're not creating these legacy fights, so stop being a goddamn idiot. Use your wrestling and just be smart about the way that you go for your striking, because like, you leave yourself so open and vulnerable, man. Like, he should have beat Poirier. You know, those leg kicks fucking taking a huge toll on Poirier in the first 2 to 3 rounds, and he just kind of let that go out of the window, and he would just kind of just trade with Poirier in the middle of the fucking cage, man, when he was having so much success elsewhere, man. It drives me crazy. That's why I actually don't like watching his fights, man, because I'm just scratching my head like, dude, why are you fighting like this?
I still love watching his brawls because they are entertaining, but I do agree with you. Like, he has a lot of potential. Like, he could be like a nice combination of a wrestler that at the same time mixes in like Jose Aldo style, like a patient leg kicking game, right? But because he does it in such an aggressive, over the top way, like, he just opens himself up to fucking getting punched in the face constantly. Like, if he took his time and tendered up these guys' legs, you know, with these fucking vicious leg kicks, and again, that is a skill in itself. To be able to do that, you know, is a wonderful thing. And he just has a lot of weapons that he doesn't use effectively, man. It's quite sad. And the dude already looks like, you know, I mean, his face looks like fucking scrambled eggs already. Like, I don't know how many fights he's got left. I'll definitely tune in, but you know, he's the type of guy that's never going to win a world title that you just put on a main event, you know, in fucking a place like Nebraska, and it'll be exciting, like, it'll draw some people in, but he's never going to maximize his MMA career like this. It's yeah, and his health, man. Let's not even talk about that. I want to, man. We've talked about, we referenced to him, this guy before, and I think it's a really interesting topic. So let's get into it quickly. Darren Till, right? And the last time we did a show was ages ago. So we actually missed the 2 fights that he had, right? We missed Thompson versus Till, and the Woodley fight, obviously. So let's start with the Thompson fight, right? So this was taking place in Liverpool. He had the fucking epic entrance, Sweet Caroline, the weight cut disaster. Fucking hell. Like, it was a bit of a downer, because to me, the moment he missed weight by like 3 pounds, like I was really pissed off, because I was riding that wave a little bit. I wanted him to succeed after the Cerrone KO. But then this bullshit happened, and then the fight was a bit lackluster as well. I thought he did well, but I don't think he necessarily won the fight.
Yeah.
What was your overall take on it?
No, I mean, for me, I was high on the Till bandwagon, but I knew his limitations, though. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't with Conor. It wasn't genuine. I was just like, yeah, I like this dude because he seems like very, very, he just seems like a badass, which is more of like.
I don't give a fuck.
I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. Like, I love that, like, Liverpool accent. You know me, I'm just a fucking casual, man. And I think I troll so much that that's Scouser. I think I'm just trolling myself, into like believing that I love this guy. But I mean, a lot of things kind of rubbed me off the wrong way. Obviously, the missing weight by 3 pounds, the whole spiel at the end, like, I'll fucking fight everyone. I don't care. And then, like, saying how he doesn't deserve the title, and then he just fights for the title in the next fight. I mean, he talks a good game, obviously, but I mean, he's not like that great of a fighter. I mean, I like his stand up, but it's more so like I like his stand up because it's pretty to look at, and I love his elbows. I mean, I like watching his highlights. I guess I should say, like, he's one of those fighters where I like watching his highlight reels, because I like his incorporation of elbows. You can tell that he practices Muay Thai a lot. But in terms of just, I mean, it's hard for me to separate the Thompson fight and the Woodley fight, right? Because the two results are so drastically different. And I mean, Woodley is just, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later. I guess we're talking about it right now, but I'm very appreciative of Woodley. I think he's such a, I don't think he's the best mixed martial artist, obviously, but I think his combination of skills are so optimally used in MMA, because even if he may have, severe limitations in certain parts of his game, he has the ground aspect, and he has the ability just to kind of take a step back and hurt you with one fucking shot that makes you so worried about coming in, man. Like, it's a really good combination to have in this sport.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we'll get into Woodley in a little bit, but like, Till is a good fighter, but I haven't seen anything apart from in the Cerrone fight where I think like this makes him special. Like you say, he's got good striking. I wouldn't say it's spectacular like Conor's, for example. Like, Conor really has for MMA spectacular striking, but I don't know. Till, he does a lot of things decent. Like, his ground and pound is pretty good as well. Like, once he gets a top position, he's pretty dominant. And he, of course, uses his size. But to kind of, how do I say it, outstrike the striker, that's what some people said about the Wonderboy fight, which I don't think is true. I thought it was just a very close tactical fight, and both guys kind of shit the bed a little bit on that big of a stage. I wanted more from both dudes. Yeah. And we knew this about Wonderboy, right? Wonderboy has done this a few times before. So I was expecting Till to really pressure him and do what he only did in the last round. So, I kind of taken into account the weight cutting thing. I was left with a little bit of bitter taste in my mouth, yeah. So then the fucking Woodley fight happens, but Lim, I don't blame him for taking it, right? I believe what he said about that he doesn't deserve the title.
Don't either.
Yeah.
No, I'm absolutely. It's just the optics I don't like.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mixed Combat Radio for that word. The optics. No, but you're right. You would be a fucking retard to say, "Oh, Dana, I don't deserve this fight, so I'm gonna pass on this opportunity." You know, of course, that's retarded. But I just didn't like the fact that that was a sequence of patterns.
No, I fully agree. And again, it was, it's a testament to what the UFC is about these days. And it was brutal though how intensely they promoted Till. Like I could not go on YouTube without seeing a new interview or a promo or a storyline like about fucking Darren Till. Like he was everywhere. Like BT was going fucking crazy about this dude. Like the UFC was putting their chips all in on this guy and hoping that he would beat T Wood, and it just backfired spectacularly. Like it wasn't even that it was like a close fight, a brawl where in the end he loses in a spectacular comeback from Wood. No. T Wood fucking iced him, outclassed him, and he made him look basically like a nobody, right? And that was just vicious, man. Like, shout out to fucking T Wood. Like, he's had a lot of fucking bad performances where I'm bored out of my skull and I don't really want to watch him that often. But that, like, to finish him on the ground, like, that was incredible. And, hype train derailing is often, a funny term that you hear in, like, Sherdog forums and things like that. But this was true to the sense of that word. Like, the Till hype train just got smashed, dude. It was incredible. So, yeah, was there anything else you wanted to touch on about that Fuking fight? I think Daniel might have dropped off a little bit.
No. I'm sorry. I just think I thought it was funny that Snoop Dogg thought Darren Till was Colby Covington.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there was this video where Stoop was commenting on the fight. He was like, "Yeah, fuck you, man." Like, I forget what, but he was like saying like, "Oh yeah, you Donald Trump loving motherfucker." And then
Darren Till said that?
No. Snoop said that because Snoop thought Till was Covington. And then Till a couple of days, he was like, "Snoop, you're a fucking bitch." And then everyone was like, "Yeah, Darren, he thought you were Covington." So it was insane. That's like Snoop thought. Yeah, Till. I mean, they don't look anything alike, obviously. So.
Oh man, Kobe chaos.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Were there any other like good fights that took place in between in the interim?
Well, on that same card, from the Woodley Till card, we had basically the coming out party for Jessica Andrade. I think it's quickly worth mentioning because this girl, I've always enjoyed watching her fight because of her like aggressive style. But the way that she beat that ass of Carolina, who I have a soft spot for, was just, that was like Wanderlei Silva-esque, man. Just fucking coming forward like a bulldozer, swinging hooks, and just putting her to sleep, bro. Like, she looks like Vaughn, bro. It's crazy. Like, man, I don't know where that power suddenly came from. I've never seen that before from her.
The acai bowls, bro.
I love some acai, I'm very happy with the acai, but fucking hell, man. Like, that was intense. And I felt bad for Carolina, man.
You know what I'm most sad about? I'm most sad about that we're probably not going to be able to see those Carolina booty shots on the embedded videos on YouTube.
Well,
did you notice how every single embedded video that had Carolina in a bathing suit, like the screenshot of the video would always be a picture of her butt?
Well, the embedded videos are biased like that. They do that with Valentina as well, right?
Which is crazy because she's not that attractive, It's like Carolina.
She isn't, but she's got a little something about her, though. I don't know. It's not necessarily that she's hot, but she's a very classy lady. I like Valentina.
Think she's classy?
She's a classy operator.
Bro, would you want her and the dancing, man? That fucking like traditional Russian dancing she does after the fights. Oh man.
She has great technique, though, man. She's a good Muay Thai fighter.
She's a damn good fighter, bro. She beat the fuck out of Holly Holm. And, like, she's at 125. It just shows you how good she is,
Like, she out-techniqued her as well. That was incredible.
Yeah, it was really high-level shit, man.
It was a proper 12 Muay Thai. But, let's see. I think this is all the fights that I had noted down, unless there's anything else that you wanted to talk about, maybe some news and notes, maybe some other little scraps that took place. I don't even know when the last show was that we did, probably back in April or something, or maybe even earlier, like in Jan.
Remember, dude, I just fucking hell, dude. I mean, to me, like, the UFC is Conor, and Conor McGregor is the UFC. You know what I'm saying? Like, the one in the thing, bro. The United fighting of Conor McGregor. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit doesn't matter.
I mean, he is the biggest star that the UFC has ever seen, and there is something about him when he just comes back, man. There's an electricity in the air that you just cannot beat, and it's very exciting. One fight I mentioned the other day when I was talking with a buddy of mine, it's something that I want to see, and I hope it gets made. I don't know what the holdup is, but I want to see Cyborg versus Nunez, man. Like, I want to see that fight. I mean, they're both very happy, and they're both like got fucking dynamite in their fists. Like, I want to see that shit. You feel me?
Yeah, I actually think Nunez would have a chance.
I think so too, because Nunez is probably more straight with her punches, and she's got those lengthy arms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'll check you down.
Yeah, I think Cyborg's slowing down, so this would be a good time to fight her. But
yeah.
I don't know what else they're talking about. I mean, we can talk about John Jones. I'm not gonna talk about John Jones. I'm just gonna say that he's a fuck. If he is snitching, like, come on, dude, that's the ultimate bitch ass move. And to me, it's not. It's like, you know me, like I've never really cared so much of the fact that he cheated, because like I've always been the type of person where I hate seeing like value or talent not be utilized to its max, you know. And like, even you could agree, when you see John Jones, he should be, right now, he should be the greatest ever, and not even by a slim margin. You know, he should be the greatest ever without a single fucking doubt. But the fact that he's continuously putting himself in these positions, like, and then just like talking shit to GSP about, you know, his claims about steroids and whatnot. It's like, dude, you've put yourself in this position 4 times, mate. 4 fucking times, bro.
It's crazy.
And like, I don't even care about the offenses, dog, because I just think he's so fucking like talented. Like, it's unfair how talented he is physically compared to everyone else. But just the fact that he wastes those opportunities. And that's why DC shouldn't fight him, man. Because if DC loses to John for the 3rd fight, like a bunch of casual people aren't going to really appreciate DC like they should. They're just going to remember those, you know, those defeats. And that's why he shouldn't fight him, man. So I don't know. That's it. The Sean O'Malley thing, I honestly don't give a fuck about, dude. I just bring that up just to kind of piss you off. But I don't even know. Because I think Sean is just, I mean, he's just cringy, dude, when I look at the guy and just the way he presents himself. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else to bring up, I don't think.
I saw a couple of news and notes that have come up. Like, Darren has actually announced his move up to middleweight, so that's official. Like, his next fight will be at middleweight. And also, Rafael dos Anjos is going to fight Kamaru Usman.
Rafi dos Anjos?
Rafi. Nerd bash, baby. Oh, God. Yeah, so that's a decent fight, actually. I'm always happy to see RDA back in the mix, but Usman, man, he's just living off that fucking Cody argument. Like, I think he sucks. I don't think he's talented at all. He's got an okay wrestling game, but apart from that...
Can we just take a moment to shit on Usman?
Yeah, please.
I mean, this guy went through a fucking weight cut, a championship weight cut, to be a fucking backup, even when T Wood said he would not fucking fight him if Till pulled out. Like, if that isn't the definition of being a cuck, then I don't know what is, man. I mean, Jesus Christ, bro.
Oh,
I mean, I guess you got to give him props. I mean, no, not guess. You do have to give him props to be able to do a full weight cut with the expectation of you not fighting. But it's just, it shows you how desperate he is, because nobody gives a fuck about him. Nobody.
Yeah. Man, do you want to touch on your boy Aaron Pico for a little bit and his rise in the Bellator ranks?
I mean, I don't know, man. I like Pico a lot, just because he trains with Freddie, you know, and he's like one of the few MMA fighters where when you watch him, you know, box, he's actually competent. You know, he's good, man. Yeah, and just everyone raves about him. You know, I know I'm echoing right now. I'm talking to myself. That makes sense. But he's just
Man,
super.
you've got a fucking echo going on, by the way. I don't know what's happened.
I think it was Joe for a second there, so he just muted himself. So I
Oh,
think that's.
okay.
But yeah, just Pico's.
Fuck yourselves, yeah.
With Aaron Pico, sometimes when people praise a guy to the extent that they do with Pico, like every single person that I've talked to, and even DC said like, yeah, this kid's a phenom. Like I haven't heard a single person say otherwise, that he isn't a phenom. So I just kind of think I take their word for it, and then now the results are finally kind of proving that. And just one more thing too, I know he trains with Cody a lot, and with TJ. They train at the same camp in Orange County, and TJ's like, yeah, dude, this guy's like the most fucking athletic person I've ever seen in my life. Like, he's just like the most conditioned dude that I've ever trained with. So I think he's going to be really special, and I hope that he transitions from Bellator to UFC once he gets that strap.
I was about to say that, man, because if he turns out to be as good, or even half as good as people are saying, like, I would want to see him fight, UFC level competition. At the end of the day, Bellator, they create some decent fights, but it doesn't have the depth to really, get excited about a guy's career. Like, guys like Chandler, have always been good and very cool to watch, especially with the Alvarez fights. But sometimes, like, I know he's on a card, and then I'll watch, but then I'll be very disinterested because I don't know who the fuck the guy is that he's fighting. And I don't know, man. Bellator, it just doesn't cut it. I know you shit on Bellator all the time, right?
It's shite, mate.
It's a bit cringy as well.
The welterweight division is probably as good as the UFC, Woodley aside.
I was just going to bring that up. I was just going to commend them for the welterweight thing, but if you're going to have the Koreshkov versus Lima fight as the third fight in that card, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. You're pretty much showing fans that we don't really give a fuck about this tournament, man. And those are the two of the three best fighters at that weight division. And they're fighting behind Rampage versus Wanderlei. Like, what?
Wanderlei?
Okay. What?
Yeah. Did you guys watch that card, though?
I saw the McDonald fight.
What did you think?
I mean, I don't think. I don't know, man. I'm not too high on Rory. I think that Thompson fight was really kind of emblematic of where he is at in his career, man. Like I think he's regressed a lot. I think people are giving him way too much props for the Lima fight in which he toughed it out. But if you guys remember, he got fucking destroyed by Thompson. Like, he looked like he didn't even belong in there, dude. And then with this result, like, I understand that Yegard is a lot bigger, and he's probably just as technically as sound as McDonald is. But, dude, he fucking shat the bed.
Yeah, Gegard put a fucking mauling on him, man. That was hard to watch. I've always liked Rory. I've had a soft spot for him. I love his, Canadian psycho alter ego, like the way he talks. I find him a very fascinating character. Like, he's a really interesting guy. And apparently he's balls deep into crypto as well. But, like...
Just going to bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah. But,
I'm sure he knows everything about the blockchain.
Man, I had a chat with man, I keep bringing this person up because I spoke to them a lot yesterday about fucking MMA, and it was kind of the warm-up for this show. Like, the Lawler fight was so spectacular, but that was a life-changing fight for both dudes. I think both guys have never been the same after that fight.
Well, more than Condit.
What do you mean? For Lawler or for Rory?
Well, for Lawler. Because obviously he had the Condit fight as well.
Nah, dude.
Yeah,
I don't think...
No, the man that because the thing is, like, the Conor fight was good, but only the ending of it was really, really intense. Like, the fucking back and forth and people getting hurt in the McDonald fight was crazy, dude. And the blood and the damage.
Is that the best UFC fight ever?
Fuck me, dude. Oof. I think aesthetically it's probably the best.
And you mentioned it in that song, Joe, so I think it has to be number one.
Like, what else would you put in the category? Like, even though it's a lot more crude, the Hendo Shogun fight is special for me because I love both guys. Especially I'm a big Dan Henderson fan, like huge.
The fight that I enjoyed the most, or one of them, was I know this sounds stupid, but it's the Rousey home fight. I love that fight. But I loved it was what MMA is built to do, which is one person's martial art ruining the other person's, and somebody just clearly using their martial art, not in like a sloppy, destructive sort of way, but in a very precise dismantling. And it was almost a passive destruction. That's what I enjoyed about that. It wasn't even like Holly seemed like she was out of her comfort zone. She just was very calm, picking Ronda off. That I enjoy that. That's the best women's fight I've ever seen. Maybe one of the most enjoyable fights I've seen. But the other one, for me, man, I really liked McGregor Diaz too. Like just the drama of that was pretty nuts.
Oh, it was a fantastic fight, and again, it had that ebb and flow, right? The back and forth.
Yeah. But
there was never really anybody. Well, obviously. I never really thought that Diaz was really hurting McGregor. You know, I wonder if he had come back and really like put him on wobbly legs, that would go for me as well into like a top 5 category. But the hype of that fight was definitely like top 5 of all time. I've never been as nervous for a fight as that one.
Yeah, I mean he was really all in on that fight, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Mate, Silva's Sonnen for me. Again, I watched that live. That was probably the biggest what the fuck moment I've had in MMA. Like that was so dramatic. That was probably one of the most dramatic moments. Like if you watch it now, it probably doesn't move you as much. But if you imagine like watching that shit live, and you're thinking like, oh my god, he's gonna fucking do it. He talked all that shit, and then he dominated him for 5 rounds, and trial, you know, like.
Mate, I'll tell you what, I didn't watch it. Oh. Yeah, mate, that's fucking all-time great moment. But I tell you what, one that I didn't watch live because I wasn't into the sport. But I imagine if you were watching it live, and you must have just been like, what is even going on in there? Is the silver knockout? I think of Stephan Bonner. No, Forrest Griffin. Yeah, sorry, it's Forrest Griffin.
Oh, Griffin Bonner. Hang on. Oh, that one. Yeah. When he moved up to light heavyweight.
Yeah, that was just like tapped him, went down, and then was just like, oh man, that was insane.
Yeah, man. There are some really fantastic moments, and it's the same with like Anderson's. Man, Anderson was in a lot of these. Like Anderson versus Vitor, like a front kick to the face. Like that shit is fucking classic, dude. Like he just kept on yelling it.
Yeah, no, the Forrest. Sorry, not fucking Bonner. It's Forrest.
Yeah, but he walked backwards and just tapped him with a jab on the chin, and Forrest went down. Like it's absolutely insane. Jones Gustafson was really good too. Like that was a dope fight. Nobody got dropped, but it was a really, really good fight.
Yeah.
Man, there was a lot of the Edgar Maynard trilogy was really good too. There were some fucking crazy ass fights in there. And obviously, if you go back further in time, like in Pride, you had fucking Fedor against Crow Cop, Rampage against fucking Wanderlei Silva, you know, getting kneed in the face fucking 20 times. Like there were some violent fucking fights, man. Like there's some really good shit. But yeah,
fair
how did we
play.
Fair play what?
Fair play to them, yeah.
Fair play to them, yeah, for sure. I'm gonna hit that for sure. Was there anything else I could think about? Oh man, one fight I wanted to mention actually. Now that I think of it, check out if you can get a hold of this fight. The Korean Zombie versus that Mexican dude. What's his name, man? Fucking hell. No, man. This was back in the WEC days, I think.
Oh, you sound like you're describing like a bar brawl, dude.
It literally. Yeah. Thank you. This fight was a bar brawl.
Who won?
Which one? The first or second one? Is the second one he finished him by Twister?
Oh, Shiza.
No, it's the first one because the first one was a decision, I think. And dude, Garcia is the widest puncher in all of MMA ever. Like he literally throws like a fucking MMA. He's just swinging like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious. And they were just exchanging back and forth, like tagging each other. Yeah, and then the rematch wasn't as good, but you had the twister, which was incredible.
Should we talk about the Cowboy Jackson Wink drama?
Yeah, talk about it. What just take?
I just think it's crazy, bro.
I think they did him wrong, bro. I think Cowboy deserves better than that.
Yeah, no.
Hey, I'm up 155, man. Shut the fuck down. Yeah.
Yeah. That Perry fight is gonna be a lot of fun.
Oh, Platinum?
Yeah, Platinum versus Cowboy.
Yeah, Platinum for me is like in the no love category, man. They're just so douchey and bro-ish. Like, I love it. I want to hang out with Platinum, man.
Yeah.
He actually had a real good interview on Ariel, like dropping some fucking knowledge, man. That was amazing. He's got some good life lessons. Yeah, what do you guys take on Zabid Magarabara Sharipov? What do you think of him? He's an up-and-comer, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very different to Khabib, though, isn't he?
Oh, he's totally different. He's like a creative fucking striker instead of a mauler on the ground.
Mate, I'll tell you what, that choke that he did, I'd never seen anything like that. Well, I can't remember what was the name of it. It was like, what was the name of it? You know the one where he hit the guy's back, but he reached over and, like, leg lock, he, like, knee barred him.
Yeah, I think it was like a reverse fucking, I don't know what they call it, but, man, Jiu-Jitsu has some gay-ass fucking names, though, for chokes, right?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is an Ezekiel choke? Like, who came up with that shit?
I think Danaher came up with it.
I think he's Portuguese guy.
Wait. Now that you mentioned it, I want to talk about this real quick. Do you remember when Danaher came on Rogan's podcast? How fucking
I watched that one episode, man.
In the line, rash guard.
Mate, when he was like when he's taking Joe Rogan through that little jiu-jitsu segment, and then he's like, "What do you see now, Joe?" Like, what do you think happens next? Like, it's just, it's so great. It's like, correct. And Joe is like balls deep in it. I fucking love it. He's so high as well. It's great.
Yeah. Only if
Ryan, 3 minutes. Gordon Ryan, 3 minutes.
Dude, Danaher is on some other shit. I mean,
Danaher just has no chill, does he?
You gotta do the voice, man. You gotta do the voice.
Yeah, did you ever watch that film Foxcatcher?
Yes, actually, I have. I didn't like it at all. The wrestling one, right?
Yeah, that's fucking John Danaher, man. He's got that in him, isn't he? He's got that weird obsession.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
You know, my first encounter with Danaher was I was watching the countdown show to GSP Jake Shields, and then all of a sudden, you know, they say like GSP has surrounded himself with a bunch of experts, like his jiu-jitsu coach John Danaher, and then all of a sudden Danaher comes in the fucking screen, and they've put this filter over it where his pasty white skin always becomes like radioactive, and he's got this psycho look in his eyes, like Jake Shields has got the, you know, submission equivalent of a knockout punch, and you're just like, whoa, this guy's fucking deep. But I mean, he is something else. It's crazy though, the stuff that he's been through physically, right? Like he has like no knees, like he can't even roll, right? He can't even demonstrate most things to his students.
Yeah, he was a bouncer, wasn't he? He was a bouncer, and then somebody showed him jiu-jitsu, and he was like, "Oh, I need to learn this," and then he just lived in the. I can't remember what was the name of the academy. It was the famous one. It was the Henzo Gracie, wasn't it? The Henzo Gracie in New York. Oh, I didn't realize he was really injured.
Mate, he has like no knees. Like both of his knees are fucking gone. Like he can't perform a takedown, for example. He cannot. Like he basically cannot roll anymore. And sometimes if it's a small like guard position that he'll demonstrate or something, he can kind of do it a little bit, but like he explained that on Joe Rogan, like he basically cannot really do anything anymore, but he's still wearing the gi or the fucking rash guard. everywhere he goes,
I
even
think
though he
that's
doesn't roll
really,
any,
like, I don't really think anyone looks good in a rash guard ever.
except
Conor.
for Conor.
Yeah.
I know, but it's just creepy.
Don't you love the way Conor like puts his fucking shoulders out, like the way he moves, like the way he walks?
Yeah.
He's
just beyond the parody. Do you reckon he walks around like his house like that when no one's there? Like he walks out the shower.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think he does, man. I just think he maximizes, like, he's just mastered human movement, you know, in terms of like the efficiency of it. I do.
So
I
like
think
when he
Connor's
sits down at the dinner table, he's like straight upright.
I remember in the build up in the build up to the Mayweather fight when he was carrying his baby for one of the media workouts, he was like, "Yeah, look at my baby. He's already maximizing like the best use of his spines." And everyone's like, "What the fuck are you talking about, bro?"
Have you seen that video? There's a video out now of Conor Jr. like doing this Billy strut. They've taught him to do the Billy strut.
Yeah, Conor Jr. is already like shadow boxing and going, hey. Like that's what he said on the fucking open workout, like literally.
I thought, I'm not gonna lie, dude. At first, I thought Conor Jr. was a little like weird looking, but he's turned into a really good looking young lad, man. So I'm super happy.
Yeah. It's just when he was born, man, he looked a bit weird, but now he's turning into a beautiful boy, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I heard they're having their second child, so congratulations, man. I know Dee's an avid listener of our show, so I had to give her a shout out. You know what I'm saying?
She's a good lass, you know. She's a good lass.
She's such a good lass, man. I can't imagine. She must have been heartbroken, dude, going through all that shit with fucking what's it called, when Conor was acting like a crazy person.
The Dolly.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, man. But Conor, again, maybe that was all hype. Like he seems more grounded now. You know, he seems to have calmed down. He's happy to be back. You know, like he seems more chill now. I like it. I think this is where he belongs. You know, the whole boxing circus. Fuck that shit, man. He's back in the octagon.
Question is, what time do I get up for the McGregor fight? Do I watch main card?
Mate, just get up for the main event when he fucking comes out to Sinead O'Connor.
Fuck it out. Victorious.
Right.
I missed the El Chapo though, right?
Yeah, that was the best entrance ever, man.
Dude, that was the best. Even the whole El Chapo movement that he had, even that presser with RDA, that's the best presser he's ever done.
I don't think so, man.
The best one was when it was the Jeremy Stevens one. When he was just ripping everyone. He was like ripping Karoni, then RDA, then Aldo.
I wrote this down.
I think the RDA one was kind of like the Khabib one in the sense that he was talking about like geopolitical shit. That just like, I just think we're too kind of like logical to kind of buy into that shit. Like we're not the typical Sherdog bro fan. We're just like, yeah, we'll believe everything Conor says. Like he was saying some stupid ass shit in there. So
what are you talking about, bro? He was he was like in Brazilian lingo. He is a gringo. He left his fucking family and all that shit. That was fucking class, man. Fucking, I've got a car that spits fire with anacondas on my feet, dressed like El Chapo in his prime. Yeah? That was fucking class.
Luke Thomas had some issues with that presser, so I gotta just believe everything that Luke says, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he drank that proper 12 on the MMA beat, yeah?
Yeah, that was class. I saw that. That was
Ramondi fucking getting that shit in.
I think Ramondi actually called off work today because he was throwing up after that one shot.
Yo, Ramondi was in the embedded, though, like asking the main question to Conor and shit like that. He's moved up in the ranks, bro.
Yeah.
Mate, I rate Raimondi. I rate all of those guys. Luke's got that little cabal of the four of them. I rate all of them.
I like Luke, man.
I like Luke.
I think Luke's that. Which one?
Sure, Chuck's like a legend of this game. And then you've got like Al Shatti and Raimondi are like the new blood.
El Shatti! El Shatti! Oh, mate. That's fucking amazing.
Yeah. Luke is the king. Luke runs that show though, man.
Yeah, man, I rate Luke.
I like how he bullies Danny Segura. It's amazing.
Well, that's because Danny Segura has a very poor kind of like hold of the English language, so Luke has to chime in. Like the guy really struggles to speak his thoughts, so it's kind of cringy.
Yeah, he isn't that good. I miss Wags on the show, man. Wags was the
fucking Wags, man.
Wags was just a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
It's like that. He's just like he's like going to that family party, and you have that one uncle, fucking like.
I wonder if Wags ever watched any MMA. Like you just turn up on the show. Like we've all done it, where we used to turn up on the Coalition and not watch any of the boxing and just try and blag it.
That's me, like every fucking show, man. I just make up shit.
Wags is the fucking MMA reporter for the Washington Post, bro. Stop fucking hating.
Oh, man.
He's a beast.
It's terrible.
It is weird though, not with Ariel not being there, man. I'm not really feeling this whole ESPN thing. Like they don't even have like a separate YouTube channel for MMA. Like I gotta go on the main channel of ESPN and find these fucking videos. Like it's not that good, man.
The content is shit. The stuff he does with Sonnen is rubbish.
It isn't that good. It's a bit cringy. I don't mind it, but it's not very good. Like the MMA Hour is still there. He's still at least he still does the face-to-face interviews, which he's really good at, right? Like that's one thing.
He's best at the flipping weigh-in overdub.
And there he is.
He doesn't do that. He can't.
Le Prédateur, Francis Ngannou.
Le Prédateur. And he's made weight. He's made weight.
Oh, the big. Oh, he always says, the big reveal.
The big reveal. High drama here in Las Vegas.
And Daniel Cormier has to resort to the UFC towel. I wonder what might be hiding underneath that little garment.
He is such a fucking weird ass Jew.
He's not. You can't see that shit.
Chip weights.
I must say though, like his interviewing skills are fucking top notch. Like his interview, well, like back in the day, like with Conor and with Sonnen and all of that, like he really brings out the best with people, man. And he can go in deep. Like I really like it. Like he's excellent at that shit. That's the best shit he does. But that's how he came up as well, right? That's how he got famous especially with the Dana White interviews, which we don't get anymore.
Yeah, I love Dana is such a little snowflake. He can't even get interviewed by the area. He gets so triggered.
Yeah, they have that Brett Yakamoto or whatever the fuck his name is.
It's terrible.
The guy from ESPN, he does the Dana White interviews now. He's not bad, actually. He asks some critical questions, but he's nowhere near as good as Ariel.
Ariel knew how to annoy Dana. Like, he knew how to get under Dana's skin so good. Like, when he dropped that stuff about Lesnar coming back at 200 and then got banned, like, that was fucking unreal.
Yeah.
With the crying on TV, fucking hell.
Yeah, but that's like his livelihood, though, isn't it?
What's up, Ariel?
He's just a pro. What's up, Ariel?
I'm gonna call it now.
Yeah, mate. We're I think we've wrapped up about 2.5 hours now, so I think this is
we wrapped up about half an hour ago, didn't we? Really?
Yeah. We'll get some final thoughts, man. Just let the people. Let the two people in the chat know what your final thoughts are on this card and what's going through your head and your heart. You know,
let the people know where to follow you, man.
Yeah, where can they follow you, Joe Jitsu? At Thug Joe Jitsu.
Yeah. Give them your social media profile.
We've got a new range of merch coming out, so if you want to support that, we're running a no-gi comp now for kids.
Mate, I think you should start like a channel like the Gracie brothers, like Henna Gracie.
We could do like, if they're going to do the university, we could do like adult night school jiu-jitsu.
Exactly, man. Teach some old people how to fucking roll a bit, defend themselves. The dangerous world out there, man. You can be a dangerous beta, as Henna Gracie says.
I fucking love Henna, man. He's top boy.
I think he's a fucking idiot, but yeah, that's me.
Henna's good, man. He's good on comms as well. He should.
He's too intense, bro.
Yeah, but he's good though. I like him. He knows his stuff.
Let him finish his final thoughts, dude.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, man. Pump for Saturday. Let's do a fight companion.
Fuck. Man. Man, for me, the fight is at like 8:30 in the morning. I don't even know if I can sleep the whole night, man. It's gonna be brutal. Because I know the moment I wake up, like it's gonna be there, and I'm gonna like freak out.
Yeah.
I get so nervous for Conor fights, man. It's not even funny. Like my heart palpitates like out of my fucking chest. Oh man, that fucking DS rematch, man. I couldn't breathe. It's too much, man. There's so much at stake, you know.
There
I
is.
feel so.
I'm so proud of you, Conor.
Conor. Anyway, Lim, what are your final thoughts, bro? Holla at me.
Yeah, I saw the fight too. So
I'm just gonna say after everything you say. Go ahead.
I mean, the legend is back. The king, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, Skip? I mean,
but here's the thing, right?
here's the thing, though, Skip. This is the guy who paved the way for modern MMA. You know, like they say, like if you raise the sea level, like everyone else benefits, man. He's a pioneer, man. He made the MMA what it is today. Like you may not like the era of super fights and the current competitive structure of the sport, like Lou Thomas says, but that's just the game, man. When you have somebody like Conor who can just put the sport at its forefront and really make people tune in, kind of like for all the extracurriculars, this is what you get, man. Like I honestly think the whole UFC deal with WME was because of Conor. I think the ESPN deal in large part is because of Conor. So he's just he's done a lot for the sport. I'm trolling with the ESPN one, but I'm not trolling with the WME.
No,
I think Conor is directly responsible for that. Maybe
and
not
Honda,
100%,
and Honda
but
as well. Let's not forget Honda.
Honda?
On the house.
Yeah, I know you're right, but no, I'm just super excited, dude. I mean, I don't know what else to say, bro. I mean, Conor's he's a really special person for me. And there's so many big moments in my life, like as cheesy as that sounds, like the last 3 or 4 years that were directly tied with Conor, man. Like it's kind of insane. I just love the guy. So gonna be super excited, gonna be super nervous. And we'll do a show, we'll try to do a show next week. Win or lose.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Probably the next 6 months, maybe. But we always say this, man, and then we let the people down a bit. It's not right. The streets are hungry for this shit. You feel me?
That's true, man. After UFC 214, we did a show, both a week before and after.
Okay, well, we might do it actually. I got one more question for you, Lim. Playoff, Super Bowl. Who's it gonna be? Holla at me. Hey, he's just gonna meet me with silence now, motherfucker. Anyway, this was. Yeah, what was that?
Pittsburgh, innit?
Mate, Pittsburgh fucking sucks, man. And I'm Steelers Nation, bro. It's fucking bad. Anyway, I am fucking pumped too. This has been the Mystic Man Podcast. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you